No, Furi, we are live, and it's only you and me, darling. All of the other people are late, unreliable, and whoever is watching this on YouTube, that's my sense of humor, darling. So, and desperation. So, we're here today for professional development, which means we will be learning how to use my model of text analysis and ChatGPT for a special reason. And the reason is as follows. I don't know, Nurfuri, about you, okay? But I tell you about myself. Do you know these horrible native speakers of English who write, there's one of them here, sadly, who write a lot and quickly and lovely. And we take 3 days to produce one paragraph, right? So those days are over. And that's why I talk about ChatGPT being a social equalizer. Because what happens now, once your language is being sorted out, and we will still see how we can use ChatGPT for literacy education, because it's not that simple. But once the language is sorted out, now your brain can shine. And that's the difference. Before, because we didn't have the language, we couldn't really produce polished enough or well articulated English texts. So we had ideas, but as soon as, or at least I'm talking about myself, as soon as I sat down in front of a computer, I was getting heart attack thinking how to word it. Right? So that was a little. On the other hand, my colleagues, some of my colleagues who had less ideas, according to me, I am being inclusive, tolerant here. But anyway, what I'm saying is people that may have not been so critical or so insightful sometimes, as say people whose for whom English is not their native language, right? They had what do you say that they were? I'm speaking Polish lately too much. So they had a bit of an advantage, right? So, but those days are over, and we need to see. So on the one hand, we have ChatGPT that can help us to engage with our ideas rather than the language being an obstacle. And the same goes for our students. So I am certain that students in Indonesia are extremely creative with ChatGPT and stealing whatever is possible in order to make ChatGPT to solve their assignments. And obviously, they get very quickly picked up as plagiarism, at least in Australia, because we can clearly tell the difference when it's not that ChatGPT wrote it, it's that the student didn't engage their thinking. And you can pick it up very quickly because the way you teach and the things you want to see in students' assignments are not necessarily the things that ChatGPT is delivering, and it cannot often. So students think that they have 500 words or something and so on. Anyway, so I'm very pleased about ChatGPT because it's doing a lot of work for us, and I want to talk about it. However, I can talk about this method with my colleagues here present in many different ways for many hours. So first I was thinking that maybe we will have Lala and Luqman. Luqman is still not online. Luqman, you're never online in Can you mute? Can you mute me? Where is the speaker?
You have to get the speaker.
Yes, I know, because you can hear me. You don't need a speaker.
I don't even have the correct link.
No, are you clicking YouTube or are you clicking Emmy the StreamYard?
I haven't got anything to click except for the poster flyer that was sent around. Just checking it.
There's just recent emails of mine should give you the link to the podcast. Podcast begins, I think the link begins with word StreamYard.
Okay, I'll try it.
All right. So what we might do today is to ask Luqman. Luqman, darling, can you turn off the sound from me? Because you can hear me. You don't need me to go through your computer. Just mute.
I already muted.
Where?
This one?
Here, you mute.
Totally mute.
Yeah, good. Leave it.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I might do is now to ask our colleagues Lala and Luqman to give a presentation, but at the same time, I being a little bit anxious as you become. Hopefully, you will not, but I have when you grow older. So let me just say that I will put a challenge to Lala and Luqman. I am not interested in them producing a rant about their PhD. They can do that back in Indonesia. I want them to use the presentations prepared for today for us to note questions they may have or challenges they experience with the model, so that this professional development workshop can help us to take this method to classroom rather than you feeling it. ChatGPT learns it and spits out analysis, quite good ones, and I will show you how to do things nicely. Now, guys, it's 10 o'clock in Australia. I don't want our colleagues in Indonesia to be tired. So could you make your presentation not too long so that people don't fall asleep? Okay? So make it, so when you talk about your slides, think about them like they guide you, but in terms of the challenges you experience and you still may have. And we will see how we can work with them, because so that Sherborne University, whatever it's called, is now university, right? Luqman, yours is also university now?
Pretty soon.
I don't know what that means. Just tell me in English. My darlings, you are here not just to learn but to engage in it as a researcher, so that we can produce research papers, and research papers which are honest. We're not doing papers like genre pedagogy. Oh, look, I taught them how to put a theme at the beginning of a paragraph, and when they, after 60 weeks of me beating them about this particular thing, they are now producing the theme right in the beginning of the paragraph. And I'm thinking that's not an independent testing, that's a biased testing. I'm just beating students next to can't use the computer. Anyway. All right, darlings. So the idea is to engage as a researcher. So if you have no question is stupid question, right? No such a thing, because we're all learning about the model, and like there's like about 1,000 people in Australia working on the genre pedagogy, which means that they are also learning, but they're not learning about pedagogy, they're learning about linguistics. So it's a completely different thing, right? It's like doing your makeup and thinking that will make you a good wife. That just gives you a good makeup. It's two different things, right? Girls, having a makeup and being a good wife, they're just two different challenges. All right, so Lala stage now, and take like 15 minutes maximum, so that can see how, don't speak too fast, but try to focus on the challenges. Successes as well, but challenges very much so.
All right. Can I share the screen?
Present, and you have to upload your thing.
I should turn on the mic or on the phone. So, my voice.
I've just got it turned off. I've got it turned
No, it's not coming through
coming through.
because you muted on the window.
Okay, let me check that.
On the little window, you see?
off. Mine's really
On the
big.
bottom, you muted there.
All right, so I think also working. So, hello.
Okay, you're still muted. I have to unmute you. So the computer microphone.
I think yes. I think that's because I'm using this one.
Okay, but can you show us the of your StreamYard?
Yeah, unmute.
Unmuted. You are.
All right. All right.
Is there an echo?
No,
Is it
not
open?
anymore.
Not
Not anymore.
anymore. All right.
Can you explain
So-
to people to enlarge the screen by putting the
Bottom right.
mouse into the bottom right corner?
All right. Can I start now? All right. Good morning, everybody. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. There's an echo to myself, but I'm trying. There's still an echo, Anya, here. Oh, do I have to put it off? Every time I talk, there's echo.
Every time I talk, there is an echo.
Where's your Vulcan? Okay,
That one.
try to talk and see whether people will hear you.
All
Yeah,
right.
they will. Okay, don't use the headphones.
Okay. So good morning again, everybody. There's a delay. No more delay, right? So there's still a delay. So every time I talk, there is a delay. Let's see.
The problem is, why do you hear yourself?
Mm.
Because I didn't hear myself.
Oh,
Check.
now
Is it okay now?
check. Is it okay now? See, there's
Hold on. Muting
What's this?
here.
But how do I know if it's muted?
muting.
Should be working.
But how do I know whether it's I just want to mute the sound out.
You're working.
Yeah.
The sound, I just want to mute out the
Maybe
sound.
this. Is it gonna work? Check. No delay, no echoes.
Check.
I think it's better. Right. So good morning again, everybody. So
Good morning. Good morning.
Ask your colleagues to tell
could
you
you
that they
guys hear me?
Could you guys hear me?
I hope you can hear me. Indonesian. Oh no.
I hope you hear me clearly.
So where do I have to go here?
Oh.
Oh.
So
What's this?
where do I have to go here?
You know what? No, don't worry that one. Here, what is it?
To mute my
You know what?
voice.
No, don't worry. It's unmute. Here.
So mute
Check.
my voice.
Check.
Unmute.
Check.
Hear you now.
Bu Fitri, Nindi, can you hear me now?
Bu Fitri, Nini, can
Okay.
you hear me now?
Alright, so good morning again, everyone.
So good morning
Very honored
again,
to be here
everyone.
with you all. Fitri, Nindi are both English teachers from Indonesia. Good morning, my good friend Amy Norman here, and then my colleague Luqman Baehaqi from in Palangkaraya. The reason why we are here today is everyone we are trying to a new contrast, because seeking a new contrast is the key to change. At the very moment, my university is now in the early transition from a conservative university into diverse and the only state cyber Islamic university in Cirebon, Indonesia, and the Institute Luqman is now also in the transition into the university. So both of us are now challenged to create a new contract, which is part of our innovation, that is part of the transitional population into university. And in my talk today, I would love to share with you my exploration in how I use ChatGPT, especially how I delve into text, how I reading features and aesthetic. So this workshop is actually a continuation of what we have done last. I believe that you have watched the video for long with Ania Lian, where we talk about the integration between emotion and aesthetics. And to be honest, these learning tools evolving to a more integrated approach. When I look at what we're doing with PhD, we had approach dealing with emotions, aesthetics, and now we are very lucky to say that aesthetics can be used to apply the analysis of text using reading framework emotions, and so I keep challenging myself. So there's a big question: why do we need to triangulate the learning process, the reading process, the writing process using these two tools? So Anya mentioned in the beginning that we have the most simple tools, right? But we have to integrate more and more insights, right, from the results of the analysis using these tools. So I have a large collection of students' text in my computer, and I the best of them. So we have papers here. Can I put my student's name there? They are now watching. So the first text was by Salsa. The first text was written by Salsa, good student. The second text was written by Azza. And what we have here is the wait the scroll. Can I just scroll? It doesn't. The scroll. Can I just scroll on it? Wait, it doesn't work. The scroll. Wait a second. Well, the scroll doesn't work at all.
There.
Well, the scroll doesn't work at all.
It's not working.
No.
It's not working.
No. So this is not the word. This is you have uploaded the version, right?
This one is PDF.
PDF.
Right.
So what's happening here?
Can I just ask you to share and not just share and not just do it a internal nutrition. This is the PDF uploaded, right? So this is the PDF you uploaded, right? And normally what we do is this doesn't look like PDF. This is Word file.
Oh, this is the PDF.
This doesn't look like PDF. And normally we have slides, right? So I suggest you remove that. Share this. You know how to do it? And share the screen. You know how to do it? So remove that. Could you just go to set present and share screen and see what happens?
So okay. Am I already?
Go to present.
It's
Not there.
Well, this one.
Stop screen.
Screen first.
Present. Share screen. Screen.
This one.
Yeah. And just pick the file.
I think.
Go to window. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Right. Open it that way. All right, let me continue my talk, everyone. So, at the end of the final assessment, did
we can see
I think a very good process of analyzing students using emotions and statics, and I can tell why these two texts are.
We can't see it. We can't see it. We can't see it.
Oh, it's just
Delay.
delayed on you.
Oh, it's just delayed.
Just make it off.
In my university, especially in the unit of academic writing, I encourage my students to create attention. So, what I mean by that is, academic writing is not simply making descriptions, but everyone, my students, is encouraged to create new tensions. We really want to make sure that they can provide the truth that people can hear. Right? We are now in the transition into using a new curriculum the focus of the unit was to analyze a lot of the focus of the unit was produced by a lot of English books government produced by our national government, and then we can for free download and we generate questions and questions so that my students create a lot of experience. I believe that by getting a lot of questions, we can generate questions. We can generate. We have to make sure that the academic writing practices in the classroom and outside the classroom can drive the narration into a moral. And then there were a lot of questions, right? Why do we need a moral? Well, because moral leads us to a point, to a conclusion, a moral to a point. If you have by Ania Lian white and right, now I could have the answer. When Ania mentioned that the analysis between white and color, well, it's because text has no symmetry. If text does not come to a moral of the story, then to a moral of the story, goes simply nowhere. So that's the very basic idea. Why I have to that's the very basic now. Why I statics can be told to myself now the analysis moving for emotion. So these are the text I from this collection of text. Everyone, the first author collection of text. Yes, the first author.
Can I just interrupt for a second? So I just wanted to say, because maybe some people already know the model and know what Lala is talking about. But I just need to. Lala has been working with me now for many years. And he knows because he's worked and analyzed with me lots of, say, university academic abstracts. People say, for example, when they define their study, they say, well, I will do how many blondes are working in TESOL. I have done this particular test and I have sent them a questionnaire, and now we know that 30% of teachers are. Obviously, I'm using sarcastic metaphor, but what I want to demonstrate through it is that research and therefore your abstract writing needs to revolve around some, and then you obviously have to write the perspectives that you find either in the literature or from a discussion
particular problem
with your colleagues on that particular problem. So it doesn't matter whether it's an anecdote or whether it's an academic paper. Everything revolves around problem, because speech is breaking of the silence. Now, I didn't say that. Bakhtin said that, right? 100 years ago. Also, I want you to remember that everything we say in this workshop is not unreferenced, right? So everything has references. So if you don't know where we got it from, send us a mail, we will tell you. But when you open your mouth, you have a reason. Otherwise, you're crazy. maybe you're not, but other people see you such. They cannot empathize the reason why you opened your mouth. So, and you open your mouth because you perceived a problem, a disturbance happened in your field. Right? So it's extremely important to identify it. And this is why Lala is talking about identifying contrasts between different perspectives, identifying contrasting groups, so that you can come up with a formulation of the problem around which you will construct your text. Now, if you have a problem, it would be good to leave the text with some form of where to from here. What did we learn from the papers? It is called, or in a PhD thesis, it is called recommendations. Just because they call it recommendations, not a moral, it doesn't mean it's not a moral.
In Polish, we call it włosy.
In Polish, we call it włosy. In English, we call it hair. In German, we call it
however, functionality that section. Sometimes in some texts, the moral is explicitly stated.
Sometimes in some the moral is explicitly stated because some people get it. In academic text, it's more explicitly because that's the job of an academic paper, to articulate everything and leave nothing to intuition. But in other texts, you may omit it because it's obvious. You don't need to say in a recipe, for example, like your daughter asked. In a recipe, you don't have to finish the recipe with the text. Do as we told you if you want the cake to look the way we thought. We took a picture here of it. I don't have to tell you, it's implied. That's why the contrast as a methodology
Indonesia
student learning
in third, fourth, seventh world countries or the category. By all means,
Indonesia continue in the third, fourth country. That means
because other people will be going with their thinking
you will have not enough money from that. Because other people will be going with their thinking forward, and we can't lift Indonesia to be after World War. What is it? 80% was rural. So you need to lift that population from that culture of
methodology to
lack of me
about
lack of methodology to think about issues critically. And also make interesting text. Don't leave everything to intuition. Some people are very skilled to write text beautifully. But that's 1%. What do you do with the 99%?
There's
people who watch it later on.
Okay, so Lala,
thank
continue.
you, Ania.
I hope that clarifies.
So yes, in order to successfully work with the model, you have to be able to see the contrast, and this is what I found from my students' text. So in my non-assisted assessment, I used emotions as well in assessing the students' text, but it was very interesting to see that it really went my analysis. So I made a comparison between text 1 and text 2. I think I found a very interesting finding here. Both texts were really good, and if you look at the progression here, so the focus has this component or emotional component, optimism, and enthusiasm, and confidence in the beginning, and then both texts went to concern and dissatisfaction in the disturbance, concern and disappointment. I like that part. And also in the dialogue part, which I think shocking to me, because when I was doing my PhD, I didn't think of dialogue as analysis. Now, as I've learned more, now I'm pretty sure that whenever the students are getting the dialogue, they have to provide at least reflection, analysis. You could also put contrast gap. And if sure.
So can I interrupt? It is an analysis because because identifying disturbance is analysis, right? Because otherwise, everything is so good. Otherwise, you stay in the optimism and enthusiasm, right? So after the reflection, you've identified disturbance. So dialogue, I call dialogue perspectives on disturbance. So here you reflect the analysis that made you perceive disturbance.
That's very true.
And it's extremely important. I have to say that sometimes when I was young, I thought I volunteered for it. Anyway, I would be sent PhD drafts by students from Asia, different students, usually from Thailand. I don't know why I was being sent these things, but and the literature review was just a rant. This person said this, this person said this, this person said this, this person said this, this person said that, this person said that, this person said that. So this is a draft before you actually identify the problem. Now have the analysis, identify the disturbance, and organize your literature review to illuminate.
You could also extend the analysis from disturbance into dialogue, right? So I think my students, some of them can do that, and it made me really, really happy.
Yeah, but that's the people who either have a talent or have a high IQ.
Yeah, but that's who either have a talent or have a high IQ or somehow intuitively understood quickly your model. We still need to work with the 70% that require a bit more. Just the last one to understand. Put it this way: till today, I don't understand holiday's model because I've got so many questions on my mind.
So I just don't understand
how other people understand it so quickly. And I think the reason sometimes people think they understand something quickly is because they cover up all the questions they have in their stomach. And they just run with ready solution.
All right, everyone, let me continue my analysis. Here, the first author extended the analysis into development, while the second author provided a determination and call to action quite early in the text. And then we also have here hopefulness and determination for the resolution of the first text, acknowledgement and realism in the second text. And finally, I think the most interesting part is the big contrast. I think the most interesting part here author. Second author, again, where the first author put an urgency looking.
Okay, I have to stop you here now.
And the second author provided the hopefulness and looking.
Okay, I have to stop you here now. Let's gauge our audience. You probably may have less experience with these types of texts that just Lala mentioned. But can anyone guess or tell me text or analysis was text 1 as opposed to text 2? I think,
but I want to.
I know, but I want to engage a group. Guys, can you suggest what was the difference between in the character?
Academic style.
I mean, they both were considered academic style. But what was the difference in the character that in the
development?
In the development,
difference.
We have such a stark difference. One is a constructive analysis, the other one is determination and call to action. Can anyone suggest?
by their name.
Look,
It's
in
not
Indonesia, you have to call people by their name.
and to say,
It's not very Australian to say,
tell me.
no
Could you guys
theory.
open your
Now
minds?
you tell me.
Suggest
Could you guys go and open your mic? Suggest what is the qualitative difference between the papers?
On Indy, Dewi wrote the learning module of reading for emotions into languages in 2021 or 22.
Languages.
And we should leverage
Great.
the literacy of English and Indonesian.
And
Yeah.
we should leverage
From each other.
the literacies of English and Indonesian, right, to learn from each other. Because we still have the same brain, regardless whether we speak different languages. Okay, this is what I do in my when I do private teaching as consultancy for different countries in Asia. It is because now I would like you to say, open your mic and say, I don't know. Which means to put the signature underneath the sides. Oh, as they say. If you don't know this or my question, say hi.
Hello. Hello. Hello, Prof. Hello, Lala. Can you hear my voice?
Go on. Yeah. Big delay.
Maybe because the CD is running through 5 different firewalls.
I don't know whether you guys are getting
Okay, so let me suggest, I don't know whether you guys are getting it, whether we are synchronized in time,
the text,
but my hypothesis is
and
text 1 was academic and
advocacy
text
paper.
2 was what we call advocacy paper.
Yeah.
So call to instead of actually continue with the critical analysis, articulating the method of analysis and continuing with it, people say, oh, we should be saving trees. Oh, we should be doing this. Right? Because sometimes what feels right could be because it is repeated on television so many times, or on social media, or somewhere else. You hear it 10,000 times, and all of a sudden, it becomes the truth. And then you want everybody else to, I don't know, whatever. Oh, let's teach task-based teaching. Like, where did you get it from? Alice said, so what? Alice still goes to the toilet in the morning and still needs food. It's not age. In whoever you read. Otherwise, you will never create anything. You will say, well, Alice solved it. Well, Alice is not Jesus or whatever.
Okay, so that's what I think. It was what I call.
Okay, so that's what I think. It was what I call advocacy paper. An advocacy paper usually is waving the flag and not engaging critically in your own ideas. And if you engage critically in your own ideas, you actually later on can wave a flag in a much more informed way.
There is one thing I forgot to mention, Anya. So by doing this simple exploration, I think I personally believe that it can help students to have bigger accessibility towards academic text, because what's missing with the genre-based approach is they don't provide that can help students to access academic texts. These academic texts are really hard to comprehend for most students, right? So I always teach this unit in the second year, and a lot of students probably A2 level. Can you imagine A2 level? Percent of my students A2 level CFR. Percent of my students to read the text. So I think that they really use effectively for reading. So for me, using this a lot of information, and then it will help to
for me using this model, and
after that, well, actually, the second analysis, this is the real one. If you guys put a color on every component of the text, it will help you in identifying the emotions as well as the progression of the text. So when I was doing my PhD, I analyzed the students' papers before I send them to the reviewers. And I think now with GPT, a more comprehensive analysis. So this is what I normally do with analysis. On the third column, we put notes here. So I think any English also do the same. And the most important analysis, I guess, now when we go to even the aspect analysis in ChatGPT can give us on how the progression actually let's take for example in the analysis of for the first text here. So ChatGPT would tell me that there is a contrast the dialogue and development, which is potential benefit of technology versus the lack implementation of it in the curriculum. So I think that's very interesting. And when we learned PhD, and simply focus on the right, and then the contrast. If I understood this better, then it will help me understand all components of statics, such as symmetry, generic viewpoint, and metaphor. The of text is resonating with the idea of problem solving. Even when you are using statics, you'll have to find doubt whether particular texts that are reading and writing have problem solving. And in terms of grouping, for instance, we can ask a question like whether this abstract has a logical or structured in a logical way, in other any big topics are relevant, and other any big topics that are relevant.
Also, structured in a way that are the tags important for the disturbance, right? Are they organized somehow? So, for example, in relation to the disturbance, to the problem identified in the disturbance, these tags take this position. These, on the other hand, these tags take this position. Right?
This is abstract thinking.
So this is abstract thinking. Now it is
that students at every level,
it is
and then
well
teachers they are
known
they like
that
abstract
students
reasoning.
at every level, and then maybe teachers too, because they lift your arm here to show. I mean, we had to spend what? A few consultation together. And I knew that undergraduate students have, and in-service teachers have abstract reasoning issues. And even my own research in Indonesia shows it. I've done it with Pekanbaru. But I thought that Amy knew it, right?
I'm old, and I don't remember
because I'm old now, and I don't remember how I was when I was starting. I just don't remember. Do you remember how you were when you were 2? Right, it's very hard to relate to a child. Like, you want him to shut up, and he won't shut up, and you think, "Oh my God, what do I do?" So we spent some time, and I had to that sort of abstract thinking, which is
naming where they belong,
identifying contrast and naming where they belong. What kind of worldview? It's very easy, but if you're not trained at it, you don't know how to identify groups, and then you just create a rant. And Mike Levy said this, Michael Long said that, and Rodelli said that, and someone else said that, and you can't think abstractly, so you produce those lists. And lists, people with no, which means they lost memory, they are very good with lists. And I tested it on my mother, by the way. A year exactly before she died, she had to be in court. And I taught her a long list of 15 items.
Oh.
And in court, she spread them all out as if she was 30. She was so proud of herself.
Right, what she didn't know.
Right, what she didn't know, but
wouldn't be able to
ask her
understand.
questions about the list. She wouldn't be able to understand.
Here present in court,
right? So if you ask her a question, is your family here present?
She wouldn't know to answer.
So I told her. But if you ask her who are the members of the family here, no.
You have to
See what I'm saying? So sometimes we take our abstract thinking process for granted, but you have to name it. It's down, like Lala is saying, using the aesthetics by Ramachandran. Ramachandran is not an average person. He's a star of neuroscience. When he walks in to a lecture theatre, everybody stands up. Now, I bet that if you invite me to Cirebon and I walk in to talk, you will not be standing up. Do.
He's a star. So we should be
happy. Right, but with him, no, he's a star. So we should be listening to people who have committed 50 years of their lives on constructive work.
Yeah.
And using those aesthetics and using the concept of symmetry, of grouping, of contrast, and not saying to ourselves, we don't understand.
And talk about it.
Creating circles like today, and talk about it.
To your students.
So that you can shine and offer, rather than being a beating person, policing your students so that they remember stupid lists and still can't write.
Yeah. All right, very interesting, Ania. So everyone, we've got here a lot of components that you need to remember by heart: the grouping, the pitch shift, the contrast, the isolation, the symmetry, perceptual problem solving, generic viewpoint. It's also interesting here because these two texts are written from a viewpoint accessible and relevant to educators, policymakers, and relatable to a broad audience. And then I think now I'm also aware that by using aesthetics, Ania, we can diversify the usage for writing, right? Because every student can have different kind of disturbance, different kind of strategies, and I think that is part of important data I haven't really looked at. And so in genre-based approach, I think there is only one strategy. In genre-based approach, we are using the tools that we have here at the using these learning tools that we have in writing. And I think that's also key learning. If we can say, I think it's also because in Indonesia, yes. We can say, right? Because
absolutely, because it engages the student, and you're not taking them to a template, regardless of what they think. You allow them to tell you what they think, and you allow for discussion. You allow them to consult ChatGPT, and not ChatGPT, please. Right, and it is your intimate context. So your teacher is not watching your discussions with ChatGPT. You can be stupid in front of ChatGPT, and I am constantly. I don't know about any. I make all my students pay for ChatGPT, so it's expensive for Indonesia. But I'm just mentioning it because one of my students, master coursework student, she says, "And you even made me pay for. I even pay for it." So is inclusive. So not only the method is inclusive, but at the same time, with the help of a personal tutor like ChatGPT, you don't have to be ashamed of not knowing things or of thinking differently. Sometimes most ingenious person has faults that nobody else has. So if you confirm with independent tutor like ChatGPT, maybe you can say things in front of your colleagues that they didn't see before. But you would have been too embarrassed to say it because you think, oh, that's stupid. Nobody else thinks this way. Right? Thinking is always good. Not thinking is largely bad.
All right then.
That's why we have the brain, right? God gave us what a monkey doesn't have. Right? We have what the rest of animals, or at least, from chimpanzees or whatever, they don't have. I don't know about dolphins, right? I just don't interact with them, so I don't know. But chimpanzees don't have. So same family, same ancestry, maybe 3 trillion years ago. Why we're different? Your baby is born with the brain of the smartest chimpanzee, the potential of the primates. So it is inclusive. So it is inclusive, and it allows drilling, but systematic drilling.
One last thing on this. By using these learning tools, reading for emotions and aesthetics, I believe that these are the best tools that we have. That's number one. And number two, we can actually delve into layers of text that cannot be investigated by linguistic description. And that's important, right? So I think if my students have a lot of strategy in using these learning tools, they can be much better, even though they are one level or level.
Okay, so I said it in my keynote in Vietnam, and I sent you the link, and I hope that our colleagues will have a chance or already had a chance to watch it. So my point really, one of my points that I made there was when I say, for example, interacted with your daughter. At that stage, she was what, 9, 10?
Yeah.
Could she tell the difference? Okay. Could she tell the difference between a recipe and a poem? So it doesn't take 3,000 hours of study to tell the difference between a poem, a recipe, and a letter. The linguists, what they do, for whatever reasons that their field requires, they have systems of analysis, whatever, they look for differences and blah, 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 blah. But these are not pedagogical models, which means they are not based on brain processes. We are interested in supporting students. We're not interested in making them memorize the entire physics of text. Because sometimes a person like a linguist understands the entire physics of text, but can't understand the process of relating to text as a reader. And it's very clear in my paper, but I'm still waiting for them to review. I am a reviewer for Australian Journal of Language and Literacy, and I know their timelines, and it's 3 months. We are in the 4th month. They are sitting on my paper, right? So sometimes it makes me cry, thinking like, just get on with it. So I must have hit a nerve somewhere. But I on purpose sent it to the Australian Journal to see how they would deal with it. It was literally almost like being provocative. I could have sent it to the US, where these models are everyday's bread and butter. But I've sent it to an Australian journal to see, like, look, guys, you've never seen those references. You never talk this way. So they're just sitting now 1 month long. Too long. I will see. Maybe they'll just sit on it for 8 months. Oh, no, please. Oh, no, I didn't say that. Word creates, right? So, these are models developed by neuroscientists. I have only applied them to texts. So we have to understand that it's an application is Ania Lian. The processes are not Ania Lian. They're based on neuroscience. And the linguists from that journal just can't come to terms with it. So I was very active just the other day on the Australian education blog, national blog. And
the way they talk about
neuroscience in the literature in Australia, the linguistic sort of team says, oh, neuroscience brain images are telling us that we cannot rely just on one field when teaching literacy.
So I wrote back.
And I said, does this apply to linguistics as well?
Right.
So I will talk about
what did you were mentioning that there was a problem with something. What did you say you had a problem? Was it? I will talk about one thing after you finish, and then just one issue, okay? And then we will have Luqman talking from his perspective, and then maybe after Luqman, we will have a bit of a discussion. Now, this is a very Australian workshop, right? So in Germany, we would be having breaks every 45 minutes.
This is not
a German workshop. This is Aussie workshop. You sit here 3 hours non-stop and you work, right? I don't know about this 45 minutes and 15 minutes break. I mean, honestly, that's a luxury.
As I have mentioned, time to listen from Luqman, I guess.
Okay, so just
let me say something, okay? And then Luqman.
I'll stop sharing.
Just wait. I'll just put you back in.
I'll just put you back in. Sometimes it kicks people out. I don't know. The network in Australia for the last week has been abysmal. Doesn't matter whether it's Canberra or Darwin or wherever. And I've lost hot water at home. But I have solar. I'm just waiting another 2 months and I'll be able to take a shower. All right. So I wanted to show you this. It's never too few times.
All right.
So let me now play with text share. So who is out? Luqman is out. Anybody else is out? We're all in here. Amy is out.
Amy,
why did you fall out?
I can't get in.
You've never been in?
No, I've never been in.
Or do I have to link the studio so I can?
Can you send
her?
her?
I don't have a link not to join it. Yeah, I only got the flyer.
No, I've sent you by email.
I've checked. I haven't got anything.
Okay, so I just have to.
It's possible I missed it, but nothing's coming up.
Like, can you send email to Amy with a link? Check it out.
I can just jump.
Someone asked me to repeat the links, so I'll just. Honestly, I feel like if it was the 1990s, because I've got it. I'm just forwarding it because the internet is so slow, as if it was the 90s, 30 years ago.
Did you send that to?
I'm sending it to Amy. So
I hope
that's the one.
Okay,
so I'll just show you something, because I think this is the point that Lala was mentioning about disturbance, something. I can't remember what it was. So please scream when you see my screen. Is everybody seeing my Word document?
Not yet.
I have to now. Yeah.
I'll just turn off my microphone.
Amy, can you turn off my microphone? Okay, can everybody see my text now?
Yes.
All right, so we're here at the analysis by the top linguists, professors, but you see they call themselves professors in linguistics. And in my paper, and I've sent the updated version now to Lala. Not sure where everybody has got it. I'm updating it continuously in order to make it better, because if they reject it in the Australian journal, I'll just send it to the States, and I want an updated, fresh version. Anyway, so they're professors, but in my view, they're professors in systemic functional linguistics, right? They're not professors in linguistics, because a professor in linguistics has a broader version on the job that they are doing, and also are able to connect. So, I mean, so say Professor White has written a paper and quotes Bakhtin, and quotes exactly the text is about, because I got that the text is breaking the silence. I got it from Professor White. He quotes it in his work in 2000. So he quotes Bakhtin. So if you break the silence, that's because you've noticed the problem that you need. So your speech is a response, and it's a strategic response. Now, obviously, I'm smarter because I read Anne Friedman. So when I was younger than all of you here, it's amazing, you're so old. When I was younger than you all here at the University of Queensland, because of Andrew Lyon, I was able to meet Anne Friedman. And in the whole consultation, she just only said this to me. Just one word. Because she knew it's pivotal to everything. And she knew that nobody understands it, right? So when I reproduce it to you like pearls of wisdom, they're not mine. My contribution to this workshop is minute. It's just application of everything that I have heard. Just.
Like that's not
right, but I didn't invent those theoretical analyses, right? So yes, Professor White says, repeating Bakhtin, that text is a response to a perceived problem. It's breaking a silence, and you break a silence for a reason. I mean, Professor White would be the first one to say, oh, social action is always intentional. Well, yeah, put two and two together. But the reason why systemic functional linguists can't put two and two together, because they are strung up by holiday. They're strung up by their own professional or intellectual bias. So they can't, because if they were to say that every text is a response to a problem, which means that every text has one way or another a complication, whether it is implied or explicitly stated. If I now say to Luqman, I'm very, so I say to Amy, because she's less offensive. If I say to Amy now, shut up, I didn't actually specify the disturbance, but it's implied. She was talking, it annoyed me, right? So there you go. Perspectives on the problem. If you ask me, you can say, why did you say that, Ania? So I'll give you perspectives, and then we can go through development. Could we produce a bit of an analysis of the way you perceive the problem, so that maybe the moral is, do not say shut up. Maybe you can say something else, right? So, but in the word, when you say to someone shut up, the disturbance is implied. It's not explicitly stated, but it's still you're producing a response. Every time you open your mouth is a response to a perceived problem, because otherwise you're quiet. When you sit on the bus, do you talk to yourself? Right. So it is very interesting that when these people are analyzing here a narrative, right? Notice there is no complication here in the text. Can you see it? Yeah. Right. It's just a remarkable event. And I cannot stress enough that if they start analysis with basically what they say is that the text has a beginning, middle, and the end. And in my presentation, I think I said that sometimes when the text is long, the belly of the middle is as big as if I overate. Now, it's all good when you can write the middle. But if you're a student, and especially in a foreign language, but not only, how do you write the middle? And especially, how do you connect the middle with the beginning? It's an art. And Amy is now, Amy is where you had been writing her proposal, right? She knows. I mean, how long did it take us to actually formulate the problem?
Yeah.
Very long time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it takes a long time. That's why university gives you up to a year to prepare your final proposal for your thesis, right? Because they know.
It's still developing.
Right. So this is a narrative. Nowhere here we see complication and resolution, and it's not, and that comes from linguistic theory. It doesn't come from the theory of text. The theory of text tells you open your mouth for a reason, as a response to a perceived problem. And you open it in order to generate some response and preferably resolution.
Can I ask a question on you just for clarification? When you say the theory of text, but then you talk about verbal communication, is it really saying the theory of communication? And that there's written and there's verbal?
I don't really want to connect them because I think that the theory of communication will include the theory of text, but they might also address other problems. And I'm not pretending that I'm fluent in the theory of communication. I try to be fluent, I have to admit. I did read a textbook that they use at the University of Canberra for teaching communications. And it was like going back to 1950s. Right? So I dropped it. There's nothing in it. The guy was professor back then, and he was alive, and he was the head of a school of education and communication, something like that, I can't remember. Or education, languages, and communicative studies, I can't remember what it was called. But it was an extremely primitive textbook that didn't include the theory of text. So the theory of text was so primitive. It was like sitting in the 50s, which had a cybernetic model of communication. What I tell you, you understand clearly, unless you're mentally disturbed.
Receiving messages.
Hey, receiving messages. The problem is that the computer can understand exactly what you said if they share the same software. But if the algorithm for organizing information differs, then it'll be the same problem as you and me. Because your history and my history are different. I attach your messages to different, to my organizing, to my knowledge, to my values, to my thinking, right? So first of all, I wanted to say the theory of text that says you open your mouth for a reason is absent here. And what happened as a result, they didn't need to find the disturbance. Now, I haven't seen a person who worked with me on the Purple Boots text and did not cry. As Amy noticed, I cried during my keynote because...
But is it interesting to add for people listening that the first time I read it as a native English speaker who's been trained as a teacher in this country, I read it like a NAPLAN reviewer, beginning, middle, end.
And you didn't cry?
And I didn't get the emotional...
Did you cry when you read the text?
Then when I read it with you, with this model, that reading for emotion model, I bawled my eyes out. Literally physically overcome.
Yeah. So just the other day I had a similar thing. I was working with a teacher. Remember how I teach academic writing with fables first? The reason I do fables is because they're short. They have the entire text structure right there. Now, it takes a genius to communicate a message in a short way. Right? So I've got a teacher who is teaching movie production at senior school. She's my master's student doing a thesis with me. So she teaches movie production. So she's in art. And she teaches English. So we're looking at the grasshopper and the ant fable. And I ask her the same question I ask every native English speaker who has studied with me, whether at the postgraduate or undergraduate level. And I said, did the fable really need the phrase in a field? Because it begins in a field one summer's day. From the perspective of grammatic correctness, it doesn't need it. All you need is the grasshopper was hopping about happily, right?
Introduce the character.
Introduce the character. Introduce the character, right?
That's
the
how it's
beginning
taught,
is
yeah.
orientation. Introduce the scene. Introduce the character. And now with ChatGPT, we will go. Remember, it's a long workshop. With a ChatGPT, your students can start with a grasshopper was hopping about. And then they can ask ChatGPT, and it will produce amazing response. Can you introduce? I want this text to communicate something, so it's the moral, right, or the spirit. Can you turn this? A grasshopper was hopping about happy. Can you turn it, make it emotional, to reflect particular mood or at the same time hiding potential threat or danger that is coming? And ChatGPT will do it. So I went to Asia Call and I met the professor in technology and languages, and he said to me, ChatGPT can't. And I already have done it. So next day I had my keynote, because at first I had a workshop. That's where I said it. But next day I had my keynote and I showed it to them. And he couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe it because he never asked ChatGPT. We have a lot of experts on ChatGPT who have never ever worked with ChatGPT.
That means you're not an expert, but anyway.
Exactly. Working with ChatGPT is not to buy prompts from someone. It means to learn how to ask prompts. Right? You have to learn. And you will learn that you can ask very sophisticated prompts. And ChatGPT now it's 4.0. It's doing better and better. So we don't have in Caldwell and White, we do not have the theory of text. Now we just have the theory of a linguistic model of text, of a topology of text, right? Absent the theory of text. You can ask why. And you can ask it in your publications, in your research proposal for grants. Right? Ask it. It's an important question to ask. Now, I'm not saying ask your colleagues who teach genre pedagogy, they probably will not know that. But people who are professors at universities in Australia in linguistics, that will stop them in their, what is it called? In their tracks, right? So because we do not have a problem mentioned here, everybody thinks orientation is just, I woke up in the morning and had a coffee. And then what happened? Remarkable event. I woke up slowly and found myself alone. Where I am, I ask myself. So they basically begin the analysis there. So consequently, every person, the NAPLAN, which is the national test on literacy, NAPLAN examiners and the linguists in Australia interpreted the text, which is the CODAF in their terms, as that the
child was dead.
That the author, the protagonist, died.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, it's not that she said that she's talking here from the world of spirits, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't it be in the orientation that she would introduce us not to the boots, not to the grandma, but she would introduce us like, I am somewhere else, and I'll tell you why. Right? It'd be probably different. Anyway, but if you see, in my analysis, if we find it, not only is a very detailed analysis where you actually identify that the fact that the grandma died, it causes the avalanche of the following events, right? it's the grandmother dying, but then she woke up. It's right. And the boots are here. And this is the thing. In the aesthetic analysis, you look for peak shift, the element that is sticking out. Like in the graphic, in the cartoon, you have the features. So remember that how Ramachandran says, when you draw Nixon, which is the ex-president of America, you draw his funny features, right? So it doesn't have to be exact. You just pick one thing, which is really characteristic of someone's face, and everybody knows who it is, right? You don't draw the hair, you don't draw anything, just the feature, and everybody knows. So this story, however you look at it, is not about beginning, middle, and end. It's about the significance of the thing that the story has as a peak shift, which is the purple boots. The purple boots didn't kill her. So they took her on a journey. And it's interesting that when I went and did so you can do all the, by the way, I have to tell you, I have to admit, I didn't tell it to the reviewers, but you see this beautiful analysis here?
ChatGPT.
Of course. I didn't do that. Do you think that I'm intelligent enough? I just asked the question. Identify the emotional journey of the protagonist, and it spit it out. I copied and pasted. I couldn't believe it. Look at the sophisticated abstract words in that. You can read it with students. You can think about it. The more you use those abstract words, the more they become their vocabulary. But if you continuously say, I did, I walk, I put, I don't know, God, keep them. Anyway. I think it was in the contrast. If you look at the contrast here, so the moral of the story, if you want to see whether the moral we got right or wrong, so when we look at contrast, so it actually says that the theme is the boots. It's the boots and the events, right? It's the boots. So maybe it's a grandma dying, boots, and events, right? Grandma dying, boots, and what happened as a result. And look at this, what ChatGPT did that. Honestly, I swear to you, this is ChatGPT. Don't tell it to my reviewers. I asked ChatGPT. Well, I did my own, and in my first version of this paper, actually, anyway, so I asked ChatGPT I taught ChatGPT how to do the analysis, and then ChatGPT did that and I'll show you how to teach ChatGPT. And look at this, it says here that we have here the theme of the boots. So basically, because it's so foregrounded as a peak shift, it looks effectively illustrating the cherished possessions, like grandma had those boots, can significantly deepen our connections with. Now, if you have never had anyone in your family or close to you die, you may not understand it, right? I am from a very small family because my father isolated us. My father thought everybody was stupid, so isolated us. Everybody has weird parents. I'm sure that my father was autistic. Anyway, but once, say, my mother died, or once someone in your family dies, right? You get it. That the purple boots were the things that remain from your family, like my mother's watch. It doesn't even go well with my bracelet. And I don't need it because I've got a phone, right? I'm just wearing it. In winter I was wearing her coats. I've got my own. Now I was wearing hers. So cherished possessions deepen our connection. It's the boots that walked her boots walk, right? Yeah. Walked her through the journey of her realizing how much she's missing her. They weren't just boots. She didn't just inherit boots. Now, none of that is happening in the linguistic analysis, which says, here's your template, here's your coda, here's your orientation, there's the middle of a text, just do that. Right? It's not a text analysis. Now, if your students, however your students would have done using my model, however they would go through the discussion together, and I'm not saying they would have done the wrong analysis, but what I'm saying is then engage ChatGPT as well and see what it will tell you. And you can have deep discussions about it. And what matters about text production is two things. You learn that there is such a thing like coherence. You learn key elements of that coherence. And you learn that text is something to engage in. Now, obviously, if you have no elements for analysis, it's really hard to analyze. So we had this story when I was little. I was 13, and they made us read this book in Poland, which is called The Doll. So there was this 20-year-old aristocracy girl, and this intellectual fell in love with her. He was 20 years older. And she was playing with him, and she was playing with other guys, whatever. So he committed suicide. And we, at the age of 13, were asked to analyze this text with no categories like this, right? So we said, oh, she was a misbehaving girl. She was really bad. She caused him dying, blah, 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 blah. I mean, at 20, you have never met a guy at the level of your development, cognitive development. So you need to talk to this one, to this one, to this one, right? It's not like it's the guy committed suicide because he never understood her in her own context. Now, but I couldn't do that at the age of 13, right? So what would be nice is to actually create what's isolated here, what's the element, love, and what's the contrast, expectations of love, of parties involved, expectations, right? And then you can expectations of the girl, so what do we know about the girl? Expectations of an old bloke who by the age of 40 still haven't found his love. It's a very fussy guy. So many women around, it's just... Anyway, so what I'm just trying to say is that the categories we have, and I'm not crowning them as directly coming to me from Jesus, Ramachandran, and now we should be all following them with a flag waving. This is not an advocacy workshop. This is here to show that they allow us to do deep drilling, learn more about that words in the text are there for a reason, and help us to reflect on it. That discussion is transforming. It's transforming. Without discussion, you come to the class and you leave the same. When you have the idea that texts have beginning, middle, and end, there's not much of transformation happening here, not much even cultural. We could talk about the habits in your community about 20-year-old, what is expected from a 20, what is expected from a... We could have discussions and learning about values. Otherwise, we just have nothing. A beginning, middle, and end. So I really liked how ChatGPT went when it came to the peak shift. It came up with the boots, but with the contrast, really, we have here the peak, that we have the boots, we have the grandmother dying, and we have the connection with the moral. It's the significance of those boots clearly identified. Now, obviously, the linguist thought that I was stunned when I read the analysis by Cadwell and White when they said that the girl died. I felt that they were watching a lot of movies, like Lord of the Rings. I don't know, I've never seen them, but something like that, where everything is in a different...
No, I just think it was a logic. They had they were doing a left hemisphere logical interpretation. She's in the land of the dead. She's dead.
Oh, okay, that's it, right? So left hemisphere, which is the McGilchrist compilation of research, but actually I think Ramachandran would have been, I don't know whether it's him, maybe some other people earlier on pointed out to the brain physiology here. But Ramachandran definitely in 1996 identified that left brain is your limitation. So when you read the conclusion and it says, "Oh, I realize I'm now in the land of the dead." Oh, she's in the land of the dead, right?
She must be.
She must be dead. There was no room for metaphor. Whereas here, when we have aesthetics, there's a room for metaphor. He comes up with metaphor. Now, all right, so I'm not going to talk more on this one. I will now leave room for Luqman.
Sure.
Yeah.
For me first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you know how to share? Lala, can you help Luqman? I don't know how to use computers without mouse. So, you can share it. So, can you go? What do you share with us? PowerPoint or Word?
PowerPoint and Word.
Okay, so share screen.
Go back to present.
Present. Share screen.
Share screen. Please. Just pick your document. Got to pick here.
Window.
Which one is your
Window.
Oh, window.
Oh no. Entire screen.
Not there yet.
Why don't you have them visible? No.
Where's your file?
It's open.
It's open.
Where? Where is it open? I can't see it. Where? Can you show us the PowerPoint now? Can you show us the PowerPoint? Where is it? Is it on your computer? Is it?
It's open. Oh, so is
Can
it-
you send me by email those files, please?
Okay.
Just I don't understand it. Why don't you have a mouse? Why don't people have mouse?
It's Mac.
So it doesn't have a mouse?
No.
Oh my goodness. Is someone still sharing? No, I have killed the sharing. So can you email that to me? So as Luqman is emailing those texts to me, all right, pity that Lala has left. Okay, guys, if you can talk to us. Everybody has disappeared.
Mhm.
Okay, it's question time. Let's have a look on YouTube, whether we have any questions on YouTube as well. Okay, guys, at this very moment, we're waiting for Luqman to sort himself out there. So if you have any questions, either word them or type them in a dialogue for conversation, or just talk. The internet is so slow. This is just not
Something's
fun.
going on at my house as well.
But in Canberra as well.
The 5G network, I think, was the main problem.
So we're waiting for questions. So I'm waiting now for email from Luqman. Okay, so I was going to ask you, Lala, what types of texts do you teach? Is it just academic or any other?
Just academic texts. But I started with the grasshopper text.
With the grasshopper, yeah.
Yes,
With the
yes,
grasshopper,
yes.
yeah.
But
But,
I
I guess it
time for my students
took some time for my students to really understand why we have to shift from fiction to abstract text. And I think the most challenging part, as I told this morning, is um, is it possible for the students who don't read enough in order to successfully use these learning tools on? That's also a challenge we have in Indonesia.
That's not a challenge. The challenge really is if they have the challenge really is the challenge that I would how the challenge is the ability to relate to the task. But just wait, I have to make it visible, and you have to do it from my computer. So come here. Can you present from my computer? But let me finish first my talk. So, yeah, maybe we can leave Luqman and we will talk about it, okay? But so relating to the task and how to use ChatGPT to do so.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Indonesia.
Are they hearing us?
I hope everybody is hearing us. Okay, it's about experience, right? This is my experience in the EFL writing class, not academic class. So I have to explain what is the context of the class. So in my class, they represent 5 ethnic groups, with local languages: Dayak, Banjar, Javanese, Sundanese, Bugis, and most of them have been learning English for since 7 years or more. But the most of them are in the pre-intermediate level of proficiency. So I try to uh, I explain to them that reading for emotions is like, maybe it is a tool, but this is a combination of another tool. It's called multisensory. So my focus is that to emphasize that reading for emotion is the emotion is like emotional engagement of the student with text, how the students engage with the text. And this is in order to
Just wait, and it sometimes can, because we've been taught so much in the paradigm of thinking of the brain, that the brain is a computer, and then the linguists are telling us, oh, you've got these 3 stages, and you have to remember that one of them has a complication and resolution, the other doesn't. Now you have a lot to remember if you follow the genre pedagogy. And if you actually read them, they will say to you, we only teach you basics, we're not really teaching you how to write. That you will learn later on.
yeah
By that time it's too late. So what people don't understand, people think that because we've been taught in that what people thought was a simplified way, but it isn't, because then you have to learn all these different types and what they include and all of that. Whereas what we are missing is what neuroscience are telling us. You are emotions. Your abstract thinking is an outcome of the emotional homeostasis of your brain. Homeostasis means balance.
yeah
That's why you're likely to kill a person when you are not in a homeostasis. Right? Sorry for using very strong comparisons, extreme comparisons, but that's because I can't think of any. I'm primitive. Remember, I'm primitive. I didn't develop. I only did small thing in this workshop. My contribution. So, and research after your consciousness. You know how people say the neuroscientists are worrying where does your consciousness live? And it lives at the back of your head, where you are together with, which you share together with reptiles. Right? It's here. And then what happened to the bits that we have at the front of our head or around that cortex, we use it to name the emotion. So the you as a human being, as opposed to a monkey, you can reflect on your actions before you take the action. So you feel like hitting me, but you think, oh my God, if I hit her, everybody will see it. So maybe I will not hit her. So you did that emotional analysis. First, you felt emotion. I'm not happy. She takes me out of homeostasis. How can I bring myself to homeostasis? So you now name the emotion, compare with another emotion, and with the emotional result that will happen if you hit me of the thing, right? And you say, okay, I'm just gonna cope. So it's the reason why I'm saying, but look, I understand Luqman's challenges and all of that, but getting people now to shift people to a different paradigm of analysis, it's not difficult because analysis is easy. But to get them there, to get them out of that assumption that everything is in lists, and once you remember the list, the point is you have to remember the list from biology, from linguistics, from text analysis, from physics. You have to remember another list, and that's why you drop out from school, because it's just so many lists and so little relevance to your life. Okay.
So the focus is on how a text elicits emotions and how emotions are expressed and experienced by the author.
That's not the point. You see, that's what people say. What did the author feel? The author didn't feel anything. You're not there. They dead most of the time, right?
No.
How it impacts on you, because comprehension is about how you understood, and that's another jump from paradigm that we have to make gradually. I mean, I will go along with your hypothesis, but I'm just saying that reading for emotion is about how you comprehend the text, not how the author comprehended his text, because that we will never know. And I think the problem now in politics very often is that you are born with the fridge, with the car, with the food 2 minutes walk from your house, right? You just go hunting for the beef in the freezer in the 7-Eleven, right? And we're judging people from 500 years ago from the perspective of my life requires nothing from me. See what I'm saying? So you cannot judge someone from 500 years ago, or even your parents. You're not in their shoes. We actually have a principle in Poland, and my father used to say to me, do not judge your parents. You're not you don't know them. You know them as a child. So so I would advise here on this issue to start thinking about how you understand, not how the author understood his text.
No. I mean, how the readers, how the students understand,
relate
the text, and how they understand the characters inside the text. So the emotional engagement must be there between the students and the text. This is what I want to say to the student, because reading for emotion is not only happens in the text, but I also told that reading for emotion is it is sequence of life. Everyone has, for example, has something to know, this is the focus, to know something. They have to know the context of everything before doing something, and then they find the problems in their life. This is the disturbance, and they have, discussion with others to find the solution, and how they proceed with the dialogues, or with the other paradigms, other perspectives, and then they find the methodology to find the to find
Identify
this
the perspective. It's very
identifying the
hard. Very
That's
hard.
why, yeah,
Because
this is
reacting is easy, but discussion why you reacted. So
Yeah.
identify the perspective from which you come and
yeah.
contrast it
That's
with
why
others.
I agree with you that the sequence of reading for emotion, not only in one genre, not only one type of
Yeah.
text, but it's in
all
text,
Text,
but
yeah.
also in all aspects of life.
Probably,
We can find it.
Yeah.
The problems every day we can find the disturbance, for example. Just this is the
That's how we
sequence.
act, right?
Yeah.
We act to respond.
Yeah.
Are you guys trying to be on camera? Because we're just seeing the top of Luqman's head.
Huh?
No, you should be seeing the PowerPoint. Do you see PowerPoint?
Yeah, but we also can
forget.
see Luqman like here.
That's all right. There's not much on
That's
Luqman.
Okay.
It's nice.
That's all right.
So for
He's
me,
wearing
text.
his beautiful shirt.
Yeah, and it's also
Yeah.
it's good to see people when they talk.
So text is emotional experience for me.
Yeah,
It's
it
like
is.
emotional experience.
Yeah.
So the students, so everyone have to engage emotionally with the text, and texts are explored as a emotional experience rather than just models. The emphasis is on the understanding how texts evoke emotion and what these emotions signify. So I also want to say that reading for emotion is interpretation oriented. This model is interpretation oriented, with students interpreting the emotional content of text and reflecting on how it affects their understanding.
Yeah. And what's interesting, because Damasio says, I talk about children because he talked about children, but it is about everybody. We internalize, as we live, we internalize our interpretation about the world and our place in it, right? So as we live, we internalize our interpretation of the world and ourselves in it. And when we do this, what you said, that interpretive analysis, we engage those interpretations.
Yes, right.
Right, because those interpretations are emotional, and that's why you remember them, because it's your emotions create those strong links that support you remembering text and what happened in the text. And transformative pedagogy, the way how I work with it based on other authors, but right, is transformative pedagogy is about engaging those interpretations so that you can expand the scope from which you act and read future text, or even this one. It's about expanding the scope. So you tell me, you articulate in the context that you are working with your students, they articulate their internalized interpretations, and they compare with another friend and so on. Maybe they compare also against other readings, right? So that's the transformative aspect of that methodology.
Yeah. Okay. Then the skill development, critical thinking and interpretation, I think it is the skills that is developed through the process of learning using the reading for emotions. Yeah. I think that is the experience I found in my class. And then I also want to show you my interpretation, my students' interpretation with the models, and also how they write text before
And after.
and
Oh,
after
that's
the model.
interesting. Yeah.
But okay.
The word? Send me the word.
Okay.
I like it. So that was the phrase that Luqman used with interpretation. What was it?
Orientated.
Interpretation oriented. Yeah. It's kind of like when you work with the model, you know it, but you don't really know it until someone says it.
Yeah.
You know? And that's the value of it, because it underscores the question you asked me before you became my student. There it is, the student. You don't devalue the student's history or presence. When it is interpretation oriented, you need the person who interprets. And there it is, the student, right? And in my paper, I will show you, but I have some phrases that I use. About that's in relation to our curriculum, Australian curriculum. Okay, so here it is. The effect, I'm not, I probably should share it for everybody. So until Luqman finds the text and is able to share it with us, I'll share with you this particular quote from my paper, and I'm waiting for it to them to either reject or publish it. Frustration. Okay, so if you can see it, as demonstrated throughout my paper, right, the affective and aesthetic techniques of the reading for emotion model are principles conceptualized to enhance learning by engaging and improving students' abstract reasoning skills, naming things, comparing, identifying groups, naming the group. This belongs to that sort of way of thinking, and this belongs to that way of thinking. So they include identifying, comparing, contrasting concepts, values, contrasting events, establishing links between them, reflecting on and expanding one's own systems of values and beliefs and understandings. Simultaneously, these pedagogical strategies help students develop informed frameworks for self-presentation. And what I mean by this, you no longer read the grasshopper and the ant and say, oh, this is about being prepared for hard times. What you're saying is, what you do, you develop vocabulary in order to say, to produce a more expanded understanding of the fable. So you grow your abstract vocabulary, and you develop ways to summarize a text. So the story, what's the peak shift in the fable of I think that the peak shift is basically the thing that is being, so two actually elements are being contrasted, which is the responsible attitude to life and taking the day as it comes, being carefree. And I think if I would say, I think that if I were to identify one peak shift, which is one element that is throughout the story, is that change of circumstances. And this is exactly why the fable begins with the text in a field. Because if you lived in the tropics, it's all good. But if you lived in Poland, where field in summer is where you run for picnics. But come autumn, field, actually in autumn, it's worse than in winter. Because we have this rain, which is cold and slices your face, literally like needles. Right? So it's not only that there is no food, but it's cold and unpleasant, right? So I think that the story that the fable, the grasshopper and the ant, begins within a field, and you can ask ChatGPT why, but it is the peak shift. So you can do the analysis, aesthetic analysis with ChatGPT, and it will tell you probably that it's the change of circumstances. You cannot assume it will be always the same. And it's a value in life. You have to remember it's a value. Do you know how you see, like, people make fun of Madonna today, who is in her 60s and behaves as she was 13, right? If you saw a 13-year-old doing crazy things, you'd go, oh, it's her time. But when you see a 60-some-year-old, what you're saying is she didn't notice that the change of circumstances. She is no longer, right? So change of circumstances. Pardon me?
Or she doesn't care.
No, but like, for me, it makes no difference how she behaves. Personally, I don't care. But the critics, those who are laughing at her and mocking her, are drawing on the value that circumstances change, right? And whether it is appropriate to use it in this context for Madonna, I mean, I don't care, right? But that's what they draw on, because it is a strong value that we have. Right? And lots of psychologists like Jordan Peterson teach it. They say, it's fine to have those responsibility when you're 13, but when you're 30, so I had a discussion with a friend of mine, and she said, so for example, in our situation, like we are here, before we were students, but now increasingly we grow into the role of leaders, taking care of people, providing leadership, support, right? Something that maybe we did a little bit when we were little, but now expanding. So so basically, what I'm saying is, students develop informed frameworks for self-presentation. Who am I? How do I talk? How do I relate to the world? How do I make other people see how I relate to them? Right? So informed frameworks for self-presentation, as opposed to a monkey that doesn't like you, so it will hit you. Right? That's just impulse, what we call impulse. And they call it maybe, in monkey world, it's maybe emotion. But in our world, it's called impulse. Because you don't reflect on self-presentation. You don't know how you talk. You don't know how you act. You don't know. You make assumptions, cold assumptions, bad assumptions about other people. So frameworks for self-presentation, interpretation, and communication, how you talk. This multifaceted approach is designed not only to improve students' literacy skills, but also to enrich their overall academic and social competencies. So we use the idea of emotional learning to do all this work for us. So now I'm just going to stop sharing and allow Luqman give us his texts, and we will work with those. I just have to first find them. So Luqman, what should I be doing, if you don't mind taking me through it, because you sent me 2 emails.
The last one, this one, yeah, the pre-test text.
This one.
This one. The pre-test.
And what do I do with
the post-test?
Which one is post-test?
Pre-test and post.
Oh, okay, I see. Well, I'm so surprised. I didn't know you've done that research. I thought you were talk about your PhD, and you must have looked at me like as if I was coming from another planet when I commented. Sorry, I didn't know you've been doing. I mean, Andrew told me you're doing great work in your universities.
Yeah, I'm busy with all the stuff.
Yeah. And in secret. I had no idea. Wow. This is what you love, right? When your students are actually independent and no longer your students, they're your colleagues and do their own work. Gee.
Still waiting for me to grow up, aren't we?
All right, so I'm gonna share it now. And Luqman, so this is.
Can I do it here and then the text over there?
Well, I
How
don't
should
know.
I?
You do whatever you want, but we just share the text. So
Okay.
pretext is PDF. Pretest is PDF. Okay. What do you want me to show? The post-test or pretest?
The pretest first.
The pretest first. Okay.
So this is the pretest of a student named Fitri Nurhayati.
They can't see it from your from a thing, so you can't manage the screen.
Yeah, but it's okay. The text from your.
Yeah, but they can't. You can't scroll it. Is it one page or one?
One page.
Can I just pages. 2 pages? So you have to scroll. You see how to scroll? Okay, so
This
take
one?
us to the.
Oh.
Okay, whatever. Just wait. Well, maybe use that pad because you're very good with the pad. I just can't use the pad. There's something wrong with me.
Okay, this is the PDF one. Oh,
this is the PDF. This is the pretest. Pretest.
Wait. I need the. So in the pretest, we can see Fitri Nurhayati's work. The focus is not clear here.
Okay, so the best way to teach English nowadays should be easy to understand and simple.
Yeah.
Teachers around the world make a lot the best ways to teach English. The simple the ways, the more easy the learner is to understand the materials. Set the mood with the learner. When you're in the classroom, you should make the learner comfortable being around with the teacher. So as you are reading this text, what happens? You are trying to work out why the heck this text was produced, right?
Yeah, the text lacks clear and strong focus here in this.
And also, why the heck are you reading it? Like, what to expect from it? So there is no disturbance.
There's no disturbance.
When you're in the classroom, you should make the learner comfortable being around with the teacher. So as you are reading it, you think to yourself, oh, I see. She just wants me to know how to teach English. Like, all right, so I'll go through that pain, right? But the thing is that when you set up the text, you've got to think. I learned a lot of things by living in Australia, and one of them is, remember, the person next to you owes you nothing. The person who reads this text owes you nothing. You are taking 5 or 10 minutes out of their life. Make it worthwhile for them. And that's called remembering the texts are produced to be read for the audience. Remember the audience. What do you want? Do you want to entertain them? Do you want to inform them? Do you want to explain to them something that they maybe haven't seen yet, right? So you want to surprise them. Do you want, right? So be aware what you want to do with this text. And now, right, so that I don't sit here, read through 4 sentences and wonder. That makes text dense. When I was a PhD student, not PhD student, but my supervisor told me to write a master thesis for which I didn't have a degree. He made me write a whole master thesis on a subject that was completely irrelevant to my PhD before I wrote my PhD. I went through so many hoops in my degrees. Anyway, and he did that because my honors thesis was in German. So he wanted me to test myself in English. Anyway, and he used to say to me, you write dense, your text is dense. And I looked at him. He was a linguist. I had no idea what he was saying. But what it was later on, and I can tell you how I discovered. But basically, I discovered dense because I never thought of someone reading it. I never knew how to... my communication with the audience was assuming so much that someone would have to be inside of my body to understand the text, right? When nobody's in your body, you have to... you're writing a text for someone to be affected by it. be clear what you want out of your text, and then organize it. So that was the pre-test. And do you want me to show the post-test?
At glance, we can see here that the pre-test is lacking in all sequence of the text. Okay, and let's we see the post-test. It's not easy teaching uh, English writing to Indonesian students if they have shortage of vocabulary, grammar.
That's
but
it.
I do not teach grammar at all in this class.
Well, I'll talk to you about it later on, but with ChatGPT, that's what I'm saying. With ChatGPT, it's easier. Which one is post-test? This one, right? It's easy because a lot of things. So to be just on the point, okay, with ChatGPT, if people have a problem with grammar or something, ask ChatGPT, is it correct?
Yeah.
Can you correct it? Where did I make a mistake? Can you write now for me 5 exercises for me, 5 drills, 5 exercises to help me understand that grammar rule, right? And you can do it every day. So it's patient. It's a machine, right? You can don't worry that it will get tired of you. It's its job. Also, ChatGPT learns from every conversation. Use sometimes Indonesian. I till today find some English ways of phrasing things difficult.
Yeah.
And I ask ChatGPT to translate to Polish. Right? So just do that. All right. So that's what I'm saying. Maybe it's appropriate to say it now. Other than the textual analysis we just mentioned, sort of use things like why this fable starts or whatever with what's the reason why this text is written? Has this reason communicated? So they're not even emotional questions at the surface level for ChatGPT. You can come third way. So the first question, what did I say? Why was the text written? What is it to communicate? What is it communicating? What emotion could you identify typifies this text? Right? And then, so these are sort of general questions you can still ask. Just because they're not explicitly in the model, that doesn't mean that the pedagogic strategies cannot be many.
Yeah.
So one of them could be, then the fourth one or whatever, ask about particular segments of the text. Why does it start in a field? Why does it say in a summer's day? Do we have to know whether he was hopping in autumn or summer, right? And then you can say, if I were to make a movie, how would you begin? So with my filmmaking student, I said you would start with autumn, then winter, and then you'd show spring with grasshopper hatching. And then summer, he's happy. He's now got all the wings and everything, right? Oh, he's no longer a larva. Larva can jump and whatever, right? So life is good for a moment, right? So you can in a field, what would you call it grammatically? This phrase, why does it have a as opposed to v? You can ask all these questions and then ask for drills. Ask it to create like sort of drilling questions, grammar exercises. It will produce grammar exercises. It will even write fables for you if you want. All right, so tell us here. They can't see yours.
In the post-test, students developed gradually, actually. Most of the
they
sequence.
Can't see it there. You have to see it.
Most of the sequence in this text are fulfilled, even though it's minimal. I mean, the focus is somewhat clear, but the disturbance need to improve.
Okay, so let's play with it for a moment. Okay, let us play because it's about ChatGPT a little bit.
Yeah.
So we will use ChatGPT, and ChatGPT knows
To analyze this one.
Knows my model because I already taught it. Okay, so I just will find the conversation. Okay, so I just went to the conversation with ChatGPT where I taught it the model, so it will update its memory as soon as I ask it.
So the ChatGPT in your computer is more smarter, much smarter
Because I taught it.
because I told it.
So this is post-test, right? So what do we have? Teaching English should be easy. Why? To understand, right? So the methodology for teaching English, teaching English for teaching English should be easy to understand. Teaching English, okay, and teaching, okay. The simpler the ways, the easier the learner can understand. Okay, so that's still focus. Another way to teach is by setting the mood with the learner. Now, I just wanted you to make sure. Remember that the idea that you start with the focus, disturbance, dialogue, development, resolution, these are elements of the text structure. Authors can play with them. Sometimes you can have a development first or dialogue first, whatever. Now, Andrew Lian has written an abstract by starting with development, and then when I produced a presentation where Andrew was present, where I showed to audiences how I analyzed his abstract, his response was, even though the structure that I produced, this is the so-called canonical structure, right? Which is like, it's a canon of, this is how you do a text, but you can play with it a little bit if the communicative purpose requires that, in your view. But anyway, when Andrew saw my analysis that showed to him how he wrote the abstract, his response was, inside of the lecture that I gave, he said, I could have written it better. He didn't like it. So you can see that while what I'm saying is, as an author, you are creative and you can play with the elements. Andrew did. And then upon seeing, he didn't like it, what he did. It's very interesting. So it was permissible, but probably the way he played with it, he didn't like it. So maybe it would have been more useful for him to actually follow the canonical model. I wanted to say it so that when you see students playing with the structure, you don't beat them up. You just see whether the text is still coherent, whether the text, whether implicitly or explicitly, has lines to communicate those elements. Mm-hmm. Because what breaks the coherence when the element is not there, neither stated nor even implied. Mm-hmm. Teaching English, okay. Another way to teach is by setting the mood with the learner. When a teacher is in the classroom, he should make so that the teaching sessions will be lively. The learner would be bored if the teaching were so stiff. The teacher and learner can be friends. So student still thinking as a list. Let's have this. Let's have a look whether it will instantly warm up to the analysis. So I'm just going to go to our session and show you my GPT screen. Where are we? So share. I don't want to see that. Window. This is already a very long stream on GPT. So your point is structure. And the way so that's something you hold in your mind. But now, how to communicate? So I say this is this is a text by an Indonesian student. I could have said it's an ESL text, right? Can you? This is a very Anglo-Saxon way to talk. Can you? instead of can you just say do this, right? But it's okay. Andrew and I still say please. You know, he does the same. We just can't help ourselves. Can you rewrite it by follow of the reading for emotion model, which is focus, disturbance, etc. Now, do you want me to do the whole text? Let's do the whole text, okay? Because why do a little bit of it? At this very moment, I only copied a little bit, and I'm just going to copy the whole thing. And we'll see what we'll do. So I put it in inverted commas just so that the ChatGPT can tell the difference that this is no longer a command. I mean, it knows it, but I am a bit obsessed. And then I finish with an inverted commas thing here. And let's see. Please correct the text by applying those elements and explain the emotional interpretation for each of the stages. Okay, see what we'll do. So it produced corrected. Let's go for the corrected text. Let's see what happens. I have to choose one, so I'll just choose this one, okay? The teacher assigns tasks disturbance. Learners might struggle to keep with emotion. The tone shifts slightly. Okay, so it actually analyzes the text, as it is written. Can your rewrite be critical and more creative for the students to see how better he or she could have written it? Now you're talking, but you can see that 3 times I had to give commands for it to give me what I wanted, because ChatGPT, this is something that we all know, but I might send you the paper by Mengli. I'm still editing it. I just have been very busy and will be busy until Tuesday. So I couldn't make corrections of his paper. So he's written the thesis, and he's written a paper on the basis, not the PhD thesis, coursework master's thesis, on using ChatGPT to help self-regulated learning in academic context. And what he found, that if you use ChatGPT cold, like a student comes to Australia, has to read the literature, so works with ChatGPT to help him to analyze the literature, he didn't learn much. He didn't get anything out of it. He said the only thing was good that I could interact with ChatGPT, so that was a positive. But my analysis, Mengli has found, Mengli was my student from Cambodia. He said, I didn't get any structure. I didn't get anything. When he used CDU's reading questions, which are online. Yeah. So you log into the system, they have reading questions. He said, again, I had no idea what I was doing. It was circular. So he was producing like one paper. He would, following the questions from CDU, he would have like 5 pages of talking about the same. So we needed special examiners for his thesis, external especially, for them to. I needed an examiner who would be understanding of the experimental character of that work, right? Because chapter 2, literally, we transferred everything. Literature analysis was chapter 1, really. We put everything in chapter 1. Chapter 2 was really the experimental thing, where we were analyzing texts about whatever, academic writing, using the models from interacting with ChatGPT, using CDU's questions, and then using 5 questions of the mentor. And the 5 questions of the mentor won the day, except that they lacked interactivity. So he still needed to talk to me, right? But even if so he needed to talk to me, but they prevented him from being circular and talking always about the same thing, but in different ways. In fact, they forced him to think and learn new skills, new research skills. And that was new. So with ChatGPT loves you. It will always be very positive. So I didn't really read to you the initial responses of ChatGPT, because I already know how ChatGPT talks. So, and we have very little time. So I wanted to push ChatGPT where I wanted it to be. So even though, so I look how I pushed it. Rewrite it, be critical, right? And more creative. So you're talking to a machine, so it doesn't understand your intention. You have to say it, right? It's interesting because you're learning how to yourself be more articulate. All right, so, and it did. So let's have a look. Learning English is a multifaceted journey. What a beautiful, your student wouldn't put it, because we don't use abstract terms like this. So your student can then turn to the ChatGPT and ask, why did you say that? Right? And say it, please explain to me. Do not tell me that was correct. Yeah. Please explain to me why you did that. Why did you use those words? Why did you use those words? You know, what is that? How do they make the conclusion of your text better, which is the moral, right? How do they make a conclusion better? Why did you pick this particular disturbance? Okay, here's the catch, right? So the ChatGPT clearly identified that this was semi-academic text, right? In an academic text for publication, you could write, here's the catch, but not likely. But ChatGPT detected that the emotion of the mood of that student's text was not for publication. It was just an assignment. So it used a more sort of, what do you call it, slangy way, to talk. But here's the catch, repetition. It is easy to get lost in the endless cycle of practice and testing. The monotony can stifle creativity, turning a vibrant learning process into a dull routine. ChatGPT clearly identified the problem that your student was probably hinting at, but not so beautifully, not so erudative way. Native speakers don't know English. Beautifully articulated way. Erudite. Anyway, and then it will take. So let's have a look. So let's ask ChatGPT without reading. What did I say to ask? How is the disturbance stage in your text linking with the moral? ChatGPT is fine with misspellings, but try not to do that because sometimes they actually mean different things, so be careful. In the revised text, the disturbance stage highlights the potential monotony, right? Which might cause students to lose motivation. This challenge directly connects to the moral at the end of the text, which emphasizes the effective language learning is is about more than just repetition. It is about engaging with the language in a meaningful, structured, and creative way, right? So project-based learning, do a website, for school or for someone, create a Cherbon or something TV channel, right? Or something like that. Amazing things. Kids are creative if you give them space and tools. So I'll take this text and I will send it to Luqman and Lala so that they can see together with my command. So when you work with students and ChatGPT generates these positive responses first, push it. Lala, I've got everybody here. Lala, Luqman. All right. So another thing, this is remember how when I was looking at the pretest text, and I was a little bit stuttering there, because the pretest text started with something like teaching English. What did you say? How did it go? Teaching English pretest. You don't remember the pretest text? The best way to teach English nowadays. Okay, teaching English class should be easy and simple. Teacher around the world. So that was the pretest. Let's have a look at the post. Where do I have it? Here. Teaching English should be easy to understand and simple, the simpler way. Yeah, I kind of didn't know how to express my confusion there. But I find it really interesting how ChatGPT dealt with it. So in the final version, it didn't start with teaching English. It started with learning English, this multifaceted journey. Ask ChatGPT why he changed, because it's a he. Why he changed, or it. I find it hard to talk about it as it. Amy, what do you say? Is it a he?
I guess it's a he.
It is a he. Okay. So maybe if it had a different name, like Elsa, that'd be she, right? Clearly.
Well, I've got that AI where you can make it whatever you want. So mine's an English woman.
Oh, all
I
right.
like her. She's lovely to talk to.
So you got a voice?
And then I've got Claude, and he's definitely a boy.
All right. But you see, when you work with a student, so first of all, the student can ask, why did it change from teaching English into learning English as a multifaceted journey? Do you want to see the response? Because I know what do you think the response will be? So it's the focus stage. ChatGPT moved away from teaching English, which is what your student started with, and shifted to learning as a multifaceted journey. Ask ChatGPT, ask students to ask about every element, including why did you start with learning English, right? To learn. And do you know what it will say, more or less? Because the idea of making teaching easier is about the student. It's not about teaching. So at the core of your student's text was not teaching, was that how students receive the pedagogy. And so it started with learning, being multifaceted. So adjust your teaching for that multiplicity to be accounted for. right? And it's amazing. And look, let's have a look at emotional interpretation. This introduction captivates the reader with an engaging and inspiring vision of language learning, which is where teaching begins. It doesn't begin with teaching. Cooking doesn't begin with cooking.
Yeah.
It begins with your digestive system. Because you can cook in 3,000 different ways and then kill yourself, die, or get cancer, or poison yourself, right? So cooking begins with your digestive system. And probably other people would add also digestive system for your well-being, right? So it's an interesting shift that ChatGPT picked, and we are all tired now, but it's like we're likely to accept that ChatGPT changed it, and we go with it. But we shouldn't go with it. Look, hey fellow, you have just changed my focus from teaching to learning. Why? Right, and that's how you do that. This introduction captivates the reader with an engaging, inspiring vision of language learning. It begins with language learning, right? So we're reading and speaking and writing and listening are the pillars of success. Imagine a classroom where teacher challenges students to weave these skills into their daily lives, transforming mundane tasks into opportunities for growth. Now, ChatGPT knows a lot of things, also knows about transformative learning, not just from me, and knows about emotional analysis. So it knows to put these things there, right? So it's not the teaching that is the core, learning is the core, and the learning that is an opportunity for growth, which is what you said, an interpretive orientation. And Lala talks about transformative orientation, right? And I talk about interrupting. I talk about interrupting, but it is more or less like engaging the internalized perceptions that students have of themselves and of the world around, and of themselves in the world. Because you can't see yourself outside of the world, because you don't have a perspective like this, right? Your perspective is always social, because it's given to you by the society. Just first your genes, right? Your genes is a memory of billions of years of history, right? So it's one collective memory, and the other one is the society. They gave you Indonesian, they gave me Polish, they gave Amy English, right? So you begin, and then you individualize as you grow, because you are only a point in that collective history, right? You are a point in it. So it's your history, your understandings, your contribution to the society. You cannot be part of everyone's collective wins by individuals winning. Right? Collective doesn't exist. Individuals exist. All right. So I really liked it. What disturbance? But here is the catch. Look how nicely it signified the disturbance. There's a problem here. So you could say, however, or but there is a catch, or you could say, but not everybody understands it, something like that. So they signaled that, so it's nice to point it out. Now I know that we're sort of late, and let's have a look how many people we still have. They all left.
What's wrong?
We have only Nindi.
Oh, Nindi.
Just Nindi left stage.
She has many questions.
She has a lot of.
Okay, Nindi, we're just gonna make you ask us some questions so that we don't. Other information I can actually share with Luqman and Lala here, and they can share it in the university. But I can't answer your questions unless you pose them. Where is Nindi writing the questions?
Oh, thanks.
What about mine? I don't put.
Anya, I have to go soon.
It's okay. We're finished.
Oh, okay.
You got a lot out of this. So I will be showing. Yeah, what's the
There's
question?
a question from Nurfitri.
Yeah.
She's very interested in using the reading for emotion models, but she wants to know more. How can this be applied by using scaffolding in the class? Do we have that scaffolding thing in using this model?
Okay. So let me address the problem of scaffolding. I don't know what it means. Scaffolding is only used currently with genre pedagogy, which means you school students, you train students into the genre pedagogy template. No, the model that I'm showing cannot be used with genre pedagogy and therefore with the explicit teaching that they use, and they call it scaffolding. Now, when you train people as if they were, sorry to say that, imposing your world on them and you test them whether they've acquired it. Whereas, for example, in the case of Luqman, what he was showing was how imperfect was the post-test text, and yet what a progress it was, right? Which means whereafter engagement transform. I've spoken about it all day today, so I'll just use abstract terms. We are after transformative engagement by students in the text and feeling how the text constructs its coherence and message through that analysis, using those using a methodology that enables students to trace emotional shifts in the text and therefore see how that message of the text is communicated. So our students are tracing the shifts, emotional shifts. Now they have to learn to do it. I don't know, feel it, act it out, make mistakes, have conversations about it. All these, it is like learning a bicycle. I cannot synchronize the handbar with your feet, and I can guarantee you will fall. But I can guarantee you that after some time you will, and after a while you will be able to stand on the bicycle seat. You don't have to even put your feet on the pedals, right? People do all kinds of circus-like things, but they didn't. I don't know. First time I made a cake, it ended up in the toilet.
The toilet?
Yeah. At the time when in Poland we didn't have cream, sugar, butter, all of that I used and threw into the toilet. And I was waiting for my mother to yell at me. Not a peep. Nothing came out from my mother's. It's lucky. So you see, the difference between the explicit scaffolding techniques of the genre model is that they beat you into the particular structure of looking at the text as opposed to emotionally engaging with the text, and in this way interpreting it in relation to your peers' interpretation and growing socially and emotionally. Right? It's very different. So no. So that's the answer is no. I hope maybe, yeah, I think that's the best way I can express. But guys, can you? I think that Lala, can you comment on it? Because I think that you would be very good to answer this question.
That's, I guess, a very common question I receive. Scaffolding, scaffolding, and scaffolding. But when I refer back to my teaching and learning experience in my experiment, I don't see it as a key point of learning. I mean, what we need to introduce to our students is the courage to explore. That's what Anya said. So we have to make a lot of trials and errors, everyone in the classroom, so that we can generate what works for them, what works for us. And I don't think that scaffolding is a guarantee for a better learning because we simply follow the template. That's, I think, problematic. And I guess there's this quote called something Anderson in 2020 mentioning that there is no recipe for learning. So since I read a lot of neuroscientific books, once you come here, you will be introduced to hardcore neuroscience. So Anya will introduce you to hardcore neuroscience, and that's what we are reading here at CDU. So since there is no recipe for learning, so it means that we have to create our own recipes, and that's how learning
Strategies for
goes.
comprehension
Right,
as
right,
opposed to uh, how to form the student.
right.
Because if you want to form the student, as Professor Lian would say, he would say, I hope you know what that form is to look like. And you will take the responsibility over it.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And a human, so and the reason why I made a comparison between scaffolding and dog, because I had a dog and I had a dog that was an alpha male, which meant that was dominant dog. And we didn't want our dog to reflectively engage in our policies of the house and develop himself. We wanted him to adjust to what's allowed. Right? So we were very strict. Right? We actually gave him the template. And when he didn't follow the template, we would not talk to him. Or worse, we would not feed him. Right? So you can see the difference that we're strict and remember, the explicit strategies of scaffolding advocated by the genre pedagogy result in text analysis as in Cadwell and White of the Purple Boots. They completely forgot that grandma has died and they focused on the coda, which is the ending, where the person says, I am in the land of the dead. Right? And they read it through the left brain without any. Yes, it's a schizophrenic reading, by the way. So if you read McGilchrist, he would say if you are left hemisphere dominant, it is a behavior of a schizophrenic person
Right.
because they cannot. That's right. Take the whole picture, and they do not. What Ramachandran says, they do not question, and what the reading for emotion model does, it doesn't teach you to the template. It gives you strategies for questioning what you get out of a text. Strategies for questioning how you understand the coherence, the message, how it is organized. Strategies for and right, and it opens.
My moral is
Come
different
here.
my moral is different from your moral, and maybe what I interpreted as a disturbance is different from what. No, I'm just saying that it opens up more conversations. It doesn't close things off to right or wrong.
Right, but it does give you strategies for verifying how close you are to better interpretation. Right, so you use aesthetics to check your interpretation of that canonical structure. Right, and then you can use summary, and then you can use questions about why did you start with those words? Why is it in a field as opposed to in the field? And you can do all kinds. So my model is strategies based on categories from neuroscience, right? So I didn't develop those categories; they come from neuroscience. I just say we can use them for text interrogation, which makes us grow. So we use learning, emotional learning, to grow academically and grow socially. So that's the value of the model. It doesn't turn you into a bottle. It allows you to transform your relationship to yourself and others. That's what I'm saying. It has this it allows you to engage, to transform your self-representation and presentation. How you present yourself, how you see yourself, how you see other people, right? Because you have invested, these are exploratory strategies. You explore the text. You don't follow the dogma. You explore the text. And Amy, who is doing work with early childhood, in early childhood context, and she has read geniuses in affective neuroscience, someone like Panksepp. What's his Christian name? I forgot. Jaak Panksepp, Jaak. He's another extremely important figure in affective neuroscience, but totally absent in education, because for the last 50 years, education focused on holiday. How could you do that? One framework for 50 years, as if it killed. She's fine. Creativity and Panksepp tells you the only thing that you always do and is fundamental to your life is exploration. That's why we're using strategies for exploring the text. So we're using neuroscience-based strategies for text exploration because that is natural to you. Panksepp says the only time you don't explore, and even maybe that's questionable, the only time you don't explore when you are in a vegetative state, in coma, dead, right? When you're dead, you don't explore. Panksepp says maybe you have funny parents and they don't allow you to play. You can live without playing. You cannot live without exploring. You explore all the time. You can't leave your room, your computer, without having the right brain, right hemisphere of yours active to make sure that you don't make mistakes. Because if you follow the left hemisphere, you follow the program. But what about if something changed at the table and you're going to make a mistake and break your computer, break your leg, something like this? So the right hemisphere has to be always active, because and the questions that we have, they trigger exploration because they trigger. Now it would be good to do a brain scan research on those on that model. However, we have found it's extremely complicated because Chirbon doesn't have a clinic probably that would do it. And it's just so complicated and it's difficult. We don't have access. We're doing something with Amy, but I don't know what it will show. So anyway, that's something to consider for future. Another question?
Or maybe you can ask their experiences.
Okay. Anybody wants to explain their experiences? Tell us something. I'm just
wave goodbye.
Okay.
All right,
See you,
thank you.
Amy. Thank you so
See you.
much.
Thank you so much. Very inspiring.
Thank
session
you.
today. It's been brilliant.
So Nur Fitri is
Hi,
an
Dr.
experienced
Ania.
teacher.
Hi, Dr. Ania.
Everybody's happy. Look. Happy because we're closing.
Yes. Say some-
Dr.
Put my
Ania, I
plug.
just
Maybe
want
the
to ask. I want to ask something.
All right.
Reading for emotions
You can
and
unmute
ChatGPT.
yourself, Bu.
Oh,
how that reading for emotion and ChatGPT can support our intuition to understand or comprehend text better. I just curious.
You can add my credentials.
Can you ask again for clarification, maybe, of the question, because we had a bit of a turmoil here.
Yeah.
Can you ask in Indonesian, maybe?
Oh, can you shorten
Oh,
it
iya.
into Indonesian?
Gini, Sir, saya tuh
You
penasaran
can speak
kenapa
English,
kenapa reading for emotion itu, maksud saya kayak gimana reading for emotion dan ChatGPT ini bisa mensupport intuisi kita lebih baik dalam memahami teks gitu, Sir.
The core is, can we foster the utility of emotion to augment our intuitiveness in learning? Can we use ChatGPT to augment or to increase the
Can you tell people enlarge the screen by hovering the thing here? Can you tell to hover on the screen on the right?
Dewi dan kawan-kawan bisa klik yang di kanan bawah ya to enlarge the screen.
She's sort of saying, I think because this is what I've tried to do, is explore a fable through ChatGPT and compare to my own analysis to see what it thinks.
Can you tell us what happened?
Well,
can you come
I
here?
didn't like what ChatGPT
Can you come here? Can you come here and tell us?
Because it was different from mine, and I thought ChatGPT wasn't doing a very good
So
job.
Amy has checked her interpretation of hare and turtle.
Yeah, the hare and tortoise. It's called.
Okay, let's call it turtle for that.
Okay.
Okay, so for the lack of anything, Amy has worked with ChatGPT to check.
I think which one to pull out.
To check whether how it actually helped her.
Yeah.
So we will hear Amy's story, but
I'm just saying, is that the
will you
question?
enrich it? Will
Is that
you
the
enrich it with the way how I then showed you?
Yes, I will now.
Okay.
I know those skills.
Okay, so Amy, explain.
So I think the question was saying, can you use ChatGPT to help you with this model? Is that right? Using the model?
Yeah.
And I was saying that I just personally I personally tried that myself to explore the model with the fable, the hare and the turtle. And it allowed me to sort of have a conversation with myself because I could see different questions. Why did you do that? What's your basis for thinking that? Just like I would if you had an analysis of the hare and the tortoise, we could have a conversation. And so that's one way you can use the model on your own. I guess you could say if you're limited in people to talk to at the time. Like if you're working on a piece of writing and you don't have someone to talk to about it, you could use the model to articulate. Yeah, anyway, that was just an anecdote really, that I had done that and I thought it was really useful, like having a peer to talk to.
Yeah, so you're intuitive. So one way to do it also is first you have to ask yourself, what's the purpose of your analysis, right? Is it just to produce a summary of what you think the text is about? Or do you want to produce an essay that based on a particular text, you advocate for something, right? So way, you can, as a result, you can produce a text, either your intuitive summary of a particular text, and then or your response to a text, and then and then I would suggest you do the following. First, so first you basically have to teach ChatGPT the model, and that takes 2 minutes, right? Maybe 3, but that's it. Instantaneous it is. then, so after the ChatGPT has in its memory the model, the both the aesthetics and the structural analysis, right? Both. So then you put your intuitive understanding of a particular text, and you can do what we did today, right? You can do what we did today, which is ask ChatGPT. Well, first of all, you can ask ChatGPT how whether you're to compare. To you see, the point is with interpretation that it is as accurate as your worldview. So it's not like ChatGPT will give you an interpretation of the text coming from, and it would say from Jesus, right? There's not such a thing. What we are doing today, which is an analysis of the text based on, it can produce an emotional analysis of the text for you. So let us have a look at something. For example, I've got, so let's share it. Where do we share? I think that, where do I share? Oh, here. Share screen, window. So let's have a look at the hare and turtle. So I don't know. Do you guys know the hare and turtle story?
Yeah.
Okay, everybody knows it. Got a lot of stuff here.
It's almost 3 hours.
Yeah, you're still surviving.
Okay, so I was teaching. Okay, let's take the. I thought I had the analysis of it. Really, because I'm thinking that the whole workshop was about it. So ChatGPT will answer any question you ask, will compare your analysis to its analysis in terms of the aesthetics or in terms of the structural elements, which is it will offer you perspectives analysis. So if a text, say, has a protagonist of sorts, so I will show you what I did for my presentation somewhere. Okay, so I'm just gonna share it. Can you see? Does it look good? Can you see it?
No.
So it's got time. Let's have a look whether our colleagues can see it. Colleagues can see it. Okay. So first of all, it will take a text and it will divide it into the stages, and it will give you and you can ask it for each stage, attach the emotional interpretation of that particular stage. You can also ask ChatGPT to give you an emotional reason for each of the phrases, right? So in the text, in a field, one summer a grasshopper about, so one summer the grasshopper grasshopper was hopping about, right? So it can give you responses to each of your questions. Another thing I did, you see, so this is how I asked. Could you please tell me why the word field why the story started with the field? And it gave me 4 reasons, and one of them was because field in summer is associated with warmth. The choice of setting helps to underscore the idyllic whatever. Emphasizing contrast, number 2, as the fable progresses, the season changes. Number 1, conveying freedom. Fields are wide open, right? So that's accentuating the happiness of the grasshopper in the field, right? But it also is that peak shift, which is here the accentuation that field, one of summer, fine winter. Another thing that I did with ChatGPT was to, I mentioned earlier, same analysis, for example, but identify the emotional journey of the protagonist in the story. So analyze you ask ChatGPT, analyze the text from as an emotional journey of the protagonist. Protagonist is the hero of the story, and it would but focus on disturbance, because disturbance is where the text shifts, so where the action happens. So first, I didn't expect my grandma to die, and you can see those descriptions. Emotional journey. The disturbance here introduces an initial emotional shock and sets the stage for Sarah's journey, right, to the land of the dead. I don't really want to read text, because you can actually take a screenshot now, or you can review this video on YouTube and read it for yourselves. But the idea is what kinds of questions you can ask to compare your thinking, first of all, how you read the text, and how you would describe the emotion for the first disturbance. I didn't expect my grandma to die. What would you say? I feel empathy. But ChatGPT doesn't just feel empathy. ChatGPT, this is when you are mapping, that's the word, is mapping. Map the emotional journey of the protagonist throughout the text. And ChatGPT would produce an eloquent, detailed response that teaches you, that engages you even deeper in the story, enables you to see the things you have seen, but maybe were not able to articulate. Because many of us, and that's why I'm first introducing this method to teachers, because like with life, right, you have to be a grown-up before you have children. And some sort of experience, like emotional development and cognitive development. The same here. First, teachers have to play with ChatGPT and compare how well they would describe the emotional, or map out the emotional journey of the protagonist, and how well ChatGPT does it. And once you see how ChatGPT does it, then you engage your brain and you think, how can I use that in the classroom? Yep. No, I thought someone was asking a question. Anyway, so you have these beautiful words. So then you can, you engage yourself as a teacher with those words, try to memorize them, right? So your vocabulary expands.
Yeah.
And then introduce gradually this vocabulary in your classroom. You can say, oh, Sarah is, like, look at the second line here, which is the second disturbance, is expressing her disorientation and solitude, right? Beautiful words. So ChatGPT says this phase represents Sarah's disorientation and solitude as she navigates an unfamiliar realm, the land of the dead. Ask ChatGPT to read it to you so you can make sure that your pronunciation is correct. And that's how you prepare for the class. You don't run with a template and say, all my students have to know there is a beginning, middle, and the end. Learn the vocabulary for each stage of the journey, say of the emotional journey of the protagonist. Learn this vocabulary, remember, have a piece of paper. And then, as you lead the discussion, then you can actually ask your students to go to ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT themselves in the classroom, or you display this analysis. Now, I always prefer when students do it themselves. However, if you have limited resources and students do not bring their phones or whatever into the classroom, you can assign a new fable, new text, where students can actually interact with ChatGPT and doing these kinds of analysis. Maybe in the classroom, one class you can have where they write their own summary of the text, they map out the emotional journey of the protagonist and their own emotional journey. Look at this. I have, and then go home and check with ChatGPT how ChatGPT actually words these things. And then you can ask students to make presentations in the classroom, because presentation forces them to memorize particular texts, right? So when they present in classroom their own interpretation of the text, they can use this sophisticated vocabulary that they learned as they were interacting with ChatGPT. You can obviously then create even more sophisticated tasks with students, whereby they have a project-based learning where they create artistic or academic, depends what you're teaching, literacy like Luqman or academic, but basically summaries of their interpretation of articles for academic, or summaries of texts or fables even, right? Where students record themselves and these things are memorized on the website or on a YouTube channel, and they form, like, for example, when you watch television, you don't have just the news on television, you have reviews, book reviews. So you can have book reviews, article reviews produced by Lala's students, or you can have texts of different kinds, reviews, scientific text. Remember that blog we have studied about the lemon? Yeah, so it's a whole neuroscience blog or science blog. They have different aspects, so they can read those texts and they can summarize with the help of ChatGPT, and then you can report orally what you have learned by memorization. So you can have discussions about it. You can about those texts, so to help students to actually build their interpretations of the text. And then at the end, when they go to home and they work tougher with it, they can actually memorize the new abstract vocabulary used by ChatGPT. And in classroom, when you record them to produce a recording for a blog, but oral video recording, they use that memorized vocabulary. Memory is important, because if you don't memorize vocabulary, if you didn't memorize Indonesian vocabulary, you would have had no vocabulary. You would be still talking right? You had to memorize. So look at this. I didn't just ask ChatGPT about the mapping the emotional journey of the protagonist. Now I ask also to focus on disturbances and map the emotional journey of the reader. And it did, right? Which is here on this slide. So first, the reader is experiencing shock and sorrow, right? Grandma died. And if someone has died in your family, you are feeling it, right? And then the next one, and the next one, and the next one. So I strongly advocate. And then look what I showed you. You can do also when you have these categories of aesthetics, which is interesting. That's the story that ChatGPT made for the grasshopper and the ant story, right? For the emotion, for the aesthetics analysis. But then I wiped out those words and we ended up with a beautiful summary. I'll show you. So once I wiped out those words, the categories, I got the story focuses on different behaviors of the grasshopper and the ant. The grasshopper's carefree attitude and focus on having fun are shown clearly against the ant's hardworking and planning activities. This helps to draw the reader's attention to the main lesson of the story. Now, this is a review of a text. It's an amazing review of a text. It's longer than the text itself.
Yeah.
Right? Look how much it's included in it. That's what I said about growing your cognitive, emotional and cognitive understandings. Because from 6 lines of a fable, you can produce 20 lines of a summary that actually introduces you and the people who will listen to you producing this summary into a proper analysis of a text. A rich analysis. That's another summary. You can ask ChatGPT to produce just a simple summary, and then when ChatGPT produces a simple summary of the grasshopper story, I ask, make it more abstractly. Improve your level of abstraction, and it generated amazing vocabulary too. So this is how much you learn. So how you can compare your analysis with ChatGPT's analysis is simply identify first. And that's when the problem with text happens, with text writing. So I'm just going to show you this one because I really want to show you that. I always wanted for people to actually understand that. Just one more thing. From this paper that is now being reviewed for 4 months now, it's sitting with someone. It's probably the whole Australia looking at it and saying it's a horrible text. It should be grammar. It should be genre pedagogy or something. Anyway, so I just wanted to, sorry for scrolling like this. So if you listen to my keynote from Vietnam, you will hear that in this paper, what I'm saying is that every time the linguists look at students' text, they thought they were beautiful, those texts. I mean, how blind can you be if you can see that the text is flat? How can you finish a text saying, so this is an accurate recount of my 2 days with Zip? You can see that the student wrote it because it was a pedagogic task. So it said, you wanted a recount, I gave you a recount, right? But what I wanted you to know as teachers, when you write with students a text like this, tell us a recount or create an interesting narrative or something. Student, the first thing they should ask themselves is, it's about the moral, right? So first, what do I want people to get out of it? How do I want people to feel? So basically, you ask yourself about the purpose. State it. What purpose do I want to communicate here? You want them to be surprised? You want them to have fun? If you want them to be surprised, if you want them to just laugh, then you have to think what's the relationship between I woke up and the text before that you included. When you say, I'm a bit claustrophobic, but I didn't feel sick, then I sat down on the nail and it didn't hurt, and then I woke up, it doesn't generate anything. So, yes, it's okay to write it by the student. It's called draft. Before Luqman submitted his thesis to me, it was 3,000 drafts. Right? There's a reason why we have a concept of a draft. But then a student has to read his or her final draft and do emotional analysis. Right? What's the relationship between the problem of a text and the final resolution of it? Is there a surprise? You wanted a surprise? Where is the surprise? But if you wanted people to, so the text is really, text resolves. Text is about, I worded it somewhere else very nicely, but there is a difference in the way how the text frames disturbance and what's a real disturbance. Real disturbance in the Purple Boot story was coping with the loss. And the audience wanted to know, how did the protagonist solve her problem of coping with the loss? Right? So the student, the writer might have written, and my grandmother died. So that's the surface level of a disturbance. But really the text is about coping with the loss. So in this particular, and then the author shows, and what the reader wants to know is how you got out from your predicament. Right? So here, for example, the wording of a disturbance is, when I woke up, I wasn't in my bed anymore. So disturbance is here, finding yourself in a scary situation. And the reader wants to know how you found a way out of your predicament. And clearly it's a fantasy story, kind of like an anecdote, which is what Caldwell and White point out themselves. Okay, so how did you find your way out of your predicament? I just woke up. And people go, that's stupid. And it took 5 minutes out of my life for that. But if you thought to yourself, if you consciously knew that I have to show the people how I got out from this predicament, and I want them to laugh, how can I do it? And that's a little bit of an intelligence question, right? Think about it. Ask ChatGPT. How the heck do I do it? So I wrote this story. I'm claustrophobic, but I didn't feel sick. Then I sat down on the nail, but it didn't hurt. And then I woke up. Ask ChatGPT, if you don't have enough of imagination or enough skill yet, how to make it funny while demonstrating to the reader how you got out from your predicament. It may help you. But look at this, just because I know that theory of mind based on neuroscience, right? Because I know that the text is about demonstrating to the reader how you got out from your predicament, from your disturbance. Then I just removed a couple of words at the end. And look how it changes everything. I stopped for a while. I noticed something weird. I'm a bit claustrophobic, but I didn't feel sick. Then I sat down on a nail and I woke up. And you go, yeah, and you laugh. Even Lala instantly had a laughter, right? And then I sat down on the nail. I mean, imagine sitting down on the nail. What the, you just go like, oh my God. I sat down on the nail and I woke up. And that's the point of a story. The point of a story here is for the ending to make people laugh, not for the ending for people to be such that people want to slap you for stealing 5 minutes out of their life. Right. So you see, the idea is not to start with the beginning, which is what genre people might tell you. I don't know, but start with the purpose. Right? Do you want to make them laugh? Okay, so we know that we want to make them laugh. So it's gonna be short. We want to make them laugh. It will be something like one of those typical. And I woke up. It was just a dream, right? So okay, so how are we gonna do it? So he wrote this beautiful text. I agree. It was well, other than spelling mistakes, it's fine, but it didn't make people laugh. It needed a bit of rethinking. Right? It was a draft, and that's why it didn't score high, because even though the NAPLAN examiners are still linguists and still follow the genre pedagogy, for some reason they are not professors maybe of linguistics. So they felt that the text wasn't good enough. Whereas the linguists who are professors of linguistics, what I call of systemic functional linguistics, right? Those professors, they don't look at the impact of the text. They just look with the topography, the structure. Does it have orientation? Does it have events? And does it have a summary? Yeah. Okay, well, that's good. Well, it's not good. It's not. If you gave this text at the stand-up comedy somewhere on a stage, you would be booed. Remember the Australian dancer who went on Olympics? The entire world knows about her. She was booed because she's failed exactly in communicating the message. And people felt cheated. Right? That's why. Not that people were nasty or something. They felt cheated. They watch all these rowers and all these acrobatic dancers and everything in gymnastics. And then there she comes, right? With her kangaroo hops. Right. So on top of it, assuming that people in America don't know that we have kangaroos and they hop, like, did she have to show, oh, I'm from Australia, look, we have kangaroos and we have something, like, get over it. That was done in the 80s, the Hogan, all these sort of people with those shows about snakes, and we've done it. We're over it. We're over it. So anyway, begin with the purpose. Then think to yourself, what disturbance, right? So disturbance and resolution and moral are actually what I call the bookends of a story. Everything else is just the beginning and the middle, right? So ask yourself, what purpose will my text have? Then think about the disturbance that might at both the deep level and surface level, right? That might signal a problem from which you need to find a way in order to get to that message that you want to communicate. So he wanted to show that he found himself in a scary environment. So think about the scary environment. There's nothing more scary than waking up in the coffin. My mother was always scared. She always said, make sure that when I died, that when they bury me, I'm dead, really. So there's nothing worse. So he came up with this, probably a NAPLAN test contact situation. So that's the first thought on the student's mind, right? So great. But if you want to use this scary situation, you have to ask yourself, okay, so that's a good wording. The surface level is, I woke up in the coffin, but you don't want to say coffin. You want to make it mysterious, right? So I woke up in those mysterious predicament, right? Which was like constrained, confined, and he did have a nail, as coffins do, right? And I sat down on it. It's the end of my nightmare. And that's funny. That does the job. So it's very interesting. Message you want to communicate, an emotion, then find the disturbance on the above deep level, and then how you're going to translate it into words. Deep level, scary situation. Okay. Surface level, I woke up and I wasn't in my bed anymore, and everybody goes, "Oh, that's great. That's the job." Then you explain how difficult it was. Okay, all good. And now give us, once you've written your draft, then think about it. Is this generating the emotion you wanted to generate? Is it making people laugh, or is it people going to slap you after they read that? Right. So think, and I give it to you. It's hard. So learn with ChatGPT. That's what classes are for. Or you, as a teacher in the classroom, you can test with students first through discussions how to make it funnier. If a kid wrote this story, this anecdote here, I can tell you, students have a lot of imagination stored inside of them, but it's very often just bottled up because we don't allow them. We put them into templates of genre. You must do this, you must do this, you must do this. We kill personality, we kill creativity. In fact, there's a beautiful paper written by Rosen, he's a British author, criticizing the genre pedagogy exactly for bottling students, putting them into these templates, and they can't actually explore themselves in the world of texts and emotions, obviously. So yeah, what's a deep level? It's gonna be funny. I'm gonna tell them that I'm in a scary place. What's the most scary place? Coffin. Okay, so I'll represent that situation to them, and then because I want the story to be funny and surprising, how am I gonna word it? Well, I word it like this, and then I have to think about it. Let's discuss together. Is this funny? No, it's not funny. It's stupid. Okay, so how do I turn it funny? I don't know. The whole class ran out of option. Ask ChatGPT, and that's the leverage that ChatGPT gives us. You don't have to be number one author in the world, right, anymore. You don't actually have to be a native speaker anymore. You've got a personal tutor, but you train a little bit with the reading for emotion model, and have then explorative discussions with ChatGPT. And it will be interesting what will come out. Obviously, you still have to rein in that ChatGPT with your intelligence, because ChatGPT is just a machine, but it's better than not having that machine. So that's what I wanted to say. Start with the purpose, the message you want to communicate, the tone of it. Then go to disturbance, identify the deep level. I want to scare people. And translate it into the words, and then take the readers through the steps to show them how you got out from your predicament. Because that's what the reader wants to know. That's why we read novels. We want to know how they got out from their predicament. Yeah. You watch a movie and you wonder whether he will marry her. Or will they kill the baddies? Or did they find the right solution to the problem that they are struggling with, right? You want to know how they will how. If the movie just gave you a conclusion straight away, you'd feel disappointed. You want to see how, that's the content, right? You want to see how they got out from their predicament. And that's what the text is about. All right, so so far so good from me. I hope it was a little bit helpful. Now, yeah, Luqman, do you want to add something?
No, I have questions.
Okay. Come closer, because we're using my computer.
It's only my question. By the use of the ChatGPT, do you think that I'm thinking about these tools or this machine reduce the emotional engagement of the students with the text? What do you think about that?
Okay. ChatGPT is like the best textbook you can have. Is textbooks reducing your engagement with letters? ChatGPT, think of ChatGPT like the best textbook, because normal textbook is dead. Once written, you can't do anything about it. With ChatGPT as a textbook, you can talk, right? And the emotional engagement depends on your explorative questions. Our explorative questions are the questions that we use for exploration of a text, for comprehension or for interpretation, are based in affective neuroscience. They are all about emotional engagement. So all the analysis that I have generated so far in this workshop had emotional angle or slant. And you can ask those. So when we ask ChatGPT to correct your student's text, make it critical and be a bit more critical and creative, we ask ChatGPT. Analyze. And under each of the stages that ChatGPT produced, it identified the emotion of that stage. So that emotion is the reason why it produced for focus on learning. So it moved from teaching English to learning English as multifaceted, right? So your student wrote about teaching, and ChatGPT felt it. If I were to be better than your student, I'll start with learning. And it told you why, and more or less used the words, because teaching is about learning. So let's define the learning first, and to showing how inspiring teaching can be if it taps into learning.
Okay. Movie 3 questions. No questions at all.
All right, darlings, we will have another workshop another time, okay? My view is that just using those strategies with your students will make a difference. Right? Don't expect perfect text. Don't expect your students to turn into Shakespeare's. They may not. Like everybody wants a child, they have to be an Einstein. But Einstein had a lot of faults that you wouldn't want to see in your children. So, right? So, transformation is a process. Right? So we're engaging in a process that is engaging students both emotionally. So engages emotional learning to support emotional and social development, and also cognitive learning at the same time. Okay, my friends, thank you so much for showing up on your Saturday. Very, very much appreciated. I hope you learned something for your professional development. Each of us, I just have to tell you, a lot of my students, the way I train them, I ask them to read at least one book which is thick and very good. So sometimes it can be a book, and sometimes could be rewatching this video, because there's a lot of things we miss because it's 3 hours, so you can miss a lot of things, but you can rewatch it and see whether you can find a new angle that you missed. I think what you have done, what I have seen now, I know that you have done more, but what I have seen from Lala and Luqman, I am totally astonished. I'm so happy that they went on with their own research, and they have stuff they can report today in #1 journals. Right? So with ChatGPT help, and with my emotional model, they can write the academic paper. So yeah, so this is an amazing research base. So congratulations. All right, we're gonna say goodbye.
Okay, thank you so much, Ibu. See you again later. Bye bye.
And it's all recorded.